Miss Parker. It's the Bennington Show. I'm Ron Bennington. Gail Bennington on maternity leave. She's being quite maternal right now with that little Juliet. Another salute to Fridays on Friday.
It's just trying to figure out how many weeks I can get Fresh Friday references in.
It works. And I do believe Miss Parker was the first MILF. First modern MILF.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sure, you go back to The Graduate and stuff like that. But this was a real celebration of someone's mom who was a smokehouse. Crazy show we've got lined up today. Now, the Thanksgiving... big Thanksgiving show, the annual Thanksgiving show, the mother of all Thanksgiving shows. Sorry, the band is going to be announced on Monday, but you can jump in early by being part of Chris's list.
You go to benningtonshow.com and fill in your information into the pop-up, and you will be on the list. benningtonshow.com.
Well, yeah, okay. So we'll jump into all that on Monday, but I feel like this is going to be the biggest Thanksgiving show of all time, and I'm saying that for hype reasons and hype reasons only. Ellie Kemper, a little later on in the show today. Delightful. Just fun, funny, adorable. I would go so far to say adorbs. I know that's what, because I'm so close to what the kids are doing now. I guess I'm Generation Z.
A founder?
I don't think the founder thing stuck the way it should have, but that happened with the aughts. You never know just because you get the slang there first, it doesn't mean it's going to work. Also, Michael Sheen is going to be here. We were going over Michael Sheen's Who's Dated Who list. Some of the most amazing women of the last 20 years have ended up with Michael Sheen, and you'll see why. We had him on the show before. He's charismatic. But the first guest we have on today is Prince and the Revolution, minus Prince. But the Revolution will be here. And I believe we're going to be missing Wendy. Is that right, Earl?
Yeah, she was a little under the weather.
Well, we're all under the weather. It's up over here at top of us. There's nothing we can do about it. But here's the exciting thing. Lisa, Bobby Z, the doctor, Dr. Fink, and Brown Mark will be here. Truly one of the great bands of all time. And if you look at any kind of list for 80s albums, they're either number one or number two, no matter where you go on that list. I think Pitchfork had them at number one. Rolling Stone had them at number two, behind London Calling.
Purple Rain is the perfect album, in my opinion. It's cut for cut, lights out. You put it on.
I have just put it on and press play as
Press
we used
play
to.
and just let it go.
Yeah.
And nobody's bummed out.
I'm going to make the case, Earl, for the album before. I think 1999 has 3 songs that are better than any 3 songs on Purple Rain.
Okay, let's see. Purple Rain, say Let's Go Crazy. Purple Rain.
Yeah.
Beautiful Ones is an incredible ballad.
It is an incredible ballad. One of my favorite songs Prince has ever done. Never really got radio play, though, right?
Yeah, which mystified me because I saw him perform that.
It's unbelievable.
At the Garden.
Yeah.
It was a spiritual experience. People were falling out. I went to the musicology tour.
Yeah.
2 rows in front of us was Mariah Carey.
Mm-hmm.
She was going bananas. Absolutely bananas.
Of course.
When he did that, started that song, she was screaming.
Yeah, man, it's great.
Like that high audible. She was just like, oh, like he's doing my song.
Now this group, The Revolution, was peak Prince. Will we all agree on that?
Yes, very much so.
And the reason that he moved on is because he had that Bowie thing of I'm going in a whole nother direction. Yeah. Wasn't personal. Wasn't like, oh, you guys have gotten on my nerve. He just
Yeah, he
heard
wanted
in something else.
He wanted to bring in his horns, which he did. He wanted to work with other people. I mean, he was one of those guys that just always kept moving and didn't want to stay still in one spot and musically, and he just wanted to go in this different direction.
It would have been it would have been fantastic to see him like go back and out on the road with a Revolution, but like you said, he wasn't a nostalgic guy.
Never. I mean, live shows, you were pressed to find him to do hits. You know what I mean? Like he could have easily did that tour where you played Purple Rain from start to finish. He would tease. He would do like slight teases of songs or kind of cut them short.
That's prickish.
But he always felt like every show is a different show, and you're going to get a different experience with each show.
I always felt like this in the 80s. Little girls loved Michael Jackson, but women loved Prince. I mean, that was a fucking sexy fucking sound.
Yeah, my sister Sharon, she had the Michael Jackson poster.
Yeah,
but we had controversy in 1999. That was in the house too.
It's not to slight Michael Jackson, but it was a real Beatles and Stones thing. You know what I mean? The bad boy was Prince. There was no doubt about it. I remember this when Eddie Murphy was at his biggest, when he was the biggest movie star in the world. He said the only career I would change would be if I could have Prince's career. That's fucking major.
And Eddie was a rock star in every sense of the word.
Except for rock. That was the only time
but the whole
that he was. No, I get it. As a comedian, he was a rock star. As a fucking as a rock star, he was a joke. You know what I mean? I'm sorry to say that, but it is what it is. So this is very, very cool. We're gonna have the Revolution stop by now. Immediately after Prince died, there was talk about them taking this out on the road. And I don't think it did happen immediately. But the shows have been incredibly well received because this music is beloved and these are the people who play it. Wendy and Lisa were like the shit during that time.
Yeah, they were every dude wanted to be with Wendy and Lisa.
Yes, together. And there was talk that they were sisters, but they're not sisters, right?
No, Wendy.
Did Prince lie about that?
Probably. No, yeah. Wendy does have a twin sister who ended up being in the band.
See, that's the confusing thing, man.
Yeah, I think Wendy had a twin sister, and she ended up being a keyboardist in a later incarnation of the band.
So the Revolution are going to be here. They're playing some dates all around the country. What's the website for that, though, Chris?
TheRevolutionOfficial.com for tickets and all their dates.
The Revolution.
The Revolution.
No, will the Revolution be televised? Have they decided that?
I don't know if they're going to televise it now.
All right, coming up a little later on in the show, Ellie Kemper unmasked one of our favorites, and I was amazed to see that in a lot of ways she had a better flow and a more comfortability than a lot of big stand-up comedians. You know, I'm always when someone is an actress, it's a little more. It's a little odder to do an interview with them because they prepare different, and stand-ups just come in and let anything happen. But Ellie Kemper was just absolutely fantastic. She was funny. I saw everyone in the room fall in love with her. And this book that she wrote is extremely funny.
That's My Squirrel Days.
It isn't yours, it's hers.
Oh, her book is called My Squirrel Days.
Yeah, and it's a very weird story. This thing is like a collection of incredibly weird little, what would you call that? Earl, you're a writer.
Like anecdotes?
Yeah, I guess it is anecdotes. It's like
Essays?
Yeah, I guess you could also call it essays. Vito, you're the
Op-eds?
No, that's not. It's not an opinion editorial that is in the New York Times, but they're like these weird little stories. You know, people are always asking me to sign a book, and I don't think I could ever do beginning to end. I could just tell all the crazy shit that happened, and that happened down in Newtown when a bunch of my old buddies showed up at the show. But was really fucking funny is how many people that did not grow up like us and looked appalled at stuff that we found. You know, a lot of hard drug and violence could be funny to people, or it could be
horrifying.
Shockingly horrifying to other people.
More like you're still alive to tell all these stories.
Not all of us are. I'm going to be totally honest. And the ones that are living did nothing different than the ones that died. There's nothing on the other side of luck and a simple twist of fate. That's all. Who knows what the gods do, Earl? I know you're a big Bible guy, but you can look through the Bible and go, oh, there's no fairness in here whatsoever. You don't know who God's going to love and who he doesn't. It's all out there. So Ellie Kemper and then Michael Sheen in a fucking scary Netflix movie that starts today. I'm still amazed that people like to be scared.
It seems bigger than ever because the horror movies now are...
It is bigger than ever.
When they come out, they are making even more and more money. More and more people are going to them.
Well, they're not as big as like the comic book movies, but they cost so much less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that Blumhouse is fascinating. He's the guy who does The Purge and the fucking movies that are just shot through some kind of spy cams. I don't understand it.
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, those things, they make them for $1.380 and they bring back $150 million. And I guarantee you, like, Batman doesn't do $150 million profit. You know what I mean? Because they put so much money into them and in marketing. So if you are a young filmmaker, it makes sense to try to come up with a horror idea. I've got so many ideas. I'm going to run them all past Earl, but most of them have to do with Earl screaming and running.
All of them?
You're very good at being scared, Earl. Vito's good at being scared too.
Yeah, I get scared very easily. I don't like horror. So if you just don't even tell me you're filming a movie, just start fucking throwing killers in there.
I can put up with most of that stuff, but I don't like things happening to children. I don't like things happening to pets, particularly dogs, and young women. So that almost takes me out. You know what I mean? Almost takes me completely out of the genre.
I don't like the slice. Anything that slices or
dices. Yeah. Slicing and dicing is your big problem.
I don't like jump cuts. That's all horror movies are now. It's just like some fucking jump cut and somebody dies.
But this movie is almost scarier because to me, this is the real kind of horror that fucks with me. It's like that strained tension that goes on and on and on. Tarantino, if he ever makes a horror movie, I won't watch it because his regular movies make me so fucking uncomfortable just waiting for this thing to happen.
Oh, the needle scene, the adrenaline shot.
That didn't bother me. I don't know. I was in it. Yeah, I was in a. I guess people have a needle thing.
I have one.
Yeah, I would felt more like the girl when she leaned forward just to see. Yeah,
I liked that there was a way out.
What's that?
Like the way I looked at it, like the needle scene, I was like, that made me feel safer in just doing stuff.
You know what was worse for me was the little girl in the fucking German movie laying under the floorboards and the Nazis were the Nazis were above. That fucking made me weirdly claustrophobic too, and I just felt like I wanted to run over to the door and just start smashing my head until I was knocked out.
That was the opening scene of Bastards, right? And and it was weird.
It's like 18 minutes.
Yeah, and like you didn't know that the Bastards weren't going to be on screen right away, so you were waiting for them already.
Yeah,
and then that scene happened, and it felt even longer and just so tense. It was a really fucking cool way to just open that movie.
Who thinks that way? All right, The Revolution is here. Now we got Lisa, who, like I said, was one of those two women that the entire 80s fell in love with. Bobby Z, Matt Fink, that was Dr. Fink. Doctor! He was the guy that was wearing scrubs the entire time, and I'm looking out, and he is wearing scrubs to a radio interview.
This is exciting.
30-some years after the fact. And then Brown Mark, who was like one of the cool guys in the band, the bass player.
Yeah.
So this is exciting. Let's bring them in. They're on tour. You can go to therevolution.com for that. They're actually doing Austin City Limits this Sunday. Lisa, Bobby Z, Matt Fink, and Brown Mark of The Revolution.
The Revolution are in studio.
Oh, the revolution has started.
Lisa Coleman, Bobby Z, Dr. Fink, and Brown Mark. They're performing tonight at Sony Hall in New York City. Austin City Limits this Sunday, October 14th. The Fillmore in Silver Spring, Maryland, October 26th. The Wilbur Theater in Boston, Saturday, October 27th. Go to therevolutionofficial.com for tickets and all their dates.
Great to see you, and I think it's amazing that y'all came in singing the song, too. It's still there. It's got to be always an interesting thing to stay this connected to this music after all these years. Does it still bring back the same feelings when you're playing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
It's lifelong.
Yeah.
And new feelings too. Yeah.
Right.
It's in our musical DNA, it's part of us.
Well, you guys were all so young on these records, but it's interesting because musicians get better as they age. So you're basically better musicians now than you were when these songs came into your life.
That's what Prince used to say.
Yeah.
He used to say, "Can't you wait? Aren't you glad you're going to get older? You'll be better."
Yeah.
And it's different. We can approach the songs in a different way as you know more, for sure.
Now, that time in your lives, how did everybody end up in Minneapolis? I mean, it was kind of far away from where you're supposed to be when you're setting out to be a professional musician.
Well, Prince grew up there.
Yeah.
Bobby Z and I grew up there. Mark Brown, you grew up there too, pretty much?
Yeah, I came in when I was about 7, yeah.
7.
Yeah.
And Lisa Wendy grew up in Los Angeles, so they became transplanted with us in Minneapolis. But there were times when we'd hang out in L.A. too, and to accommodate them. And the business was
Prince,
out there. So
he liked the isolation of Minneapolis, so it gave him the freedom. He didn't like record company people and people being able to invade his space, so it created a safe haven all the way to building Paisley Park eventually in Chanhassen, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Now, you guys came specifically to play with Prince, though? You came from L.A. to play?
That's kind of the funny part, is that both Wendy and I came from Los Angeles, where our parents were involved in music business, and our fathers were musicians, and but yet it took us moving to Minneapolis to play with Prince to break it into the music. And it was just the fact that it was Prince. He was looking for musicians, and it was just the fact that he was one of those guys that was just so full of talent, and he was just going to do something, and you could feel it.
Yeah.
So it was easy to just.
Now, but your parents being musicians from a different age, how did they view Prince and his music?
They thought he was really talented. I mean, they worried about me a little bit when going on the road, and then with the sexuality involved, they just worried about me as being a young girl and things like that. But they were extremely supportive as far as the music was concerned, because they could really tell that he was a real talent. This wasn't just a flash in the pan kind of, thing. This was going to do something and last.
It's incredible when you see like that once in a generation thing that was happening, and that you guys were all so young. Did you even realize how insanely rare this kind of sound was going to be? You know what I mean? Did you realize that this is something that here we are 30 years later and still examining this, music?
Yeah, we were just talking about that. We didn't especially while it was going on, while we were touring and making the music, we were really cloistered and just focused on the work.
Right.
So we didn't really experience a lot of what was actually happening out in the world and how popular it was. And we just knew that, the Purple Rain tour, suddenly there were limousines and, bodyguards and things like that. So it was like something's
changing, right? Something's happening. Particularly when it's so physically far away from what you're doing. Like people in England are feeling the same way as people in Los Angeles, and people in Japan are feeling the same way. So now here's the stuff that you did in the studio that goes off and has like a life of its own, and people attach their own feelings to it and their own dreams. And sometimes it feels like it has nothing to do with the people who created it. You kind of give it away. When this happened too, there was also like a scene on the other side of the town with like the Replacements and who's
in the same building.
Oh, they were so you guys were aware that was going.
First Avenue was Prince, basically, and the Minneapolis Sound, and then 50 feet away in the 7th Street entry, the club connected in First Avenue was Westerberg, Husker Du, Soul Asylum, all these amazing alternative rockers exploding on the same building.
How mind-blowing is that? You know what I mean? Like you can hear about something happening like in Liverpool or whatever, but the fact that it takes place in your town and things that aren't really connected, it makes you believe that there's something, there's something.
Something in the water, as Prince said.
Something that brings the music in. That's always very, very
freezing cold weather.
Yes, keeps people inside.
It drives you indoors to be creative.
Nothing else to do but practice.
As Prince used to say, it keeps the riffraff out. That's why I like it.
Like the freezing cold, keeps the riffraff out.
Yeah, but it is. It's so stunning to even look back and know that whole thing went down like that, and now. You guys are keeping this music out there by touring. How long was it that you guys stopped playing this music until you came back and started playing it again? These exact songs.
Long time.
Yeah.
At least 30 years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of a couple of times we got together and played, it had been 30 years. And
wow.
Yeah, and it's been interesting, and you're right. We're better musicians now, and it was interesting for me to play. Start learning or reminding myself of the parts and things that used to be really hard for me were suddenly a lot easier, and I understand like harmonically things that were going on now that I didn't realize then. And it's, I mean It's incredible. It's really educational.
Right.
It was like riding a bike. I mean, we rehearsed so much back in the day that when we got back together, it was like, whoa, okay, it sounded like yesterday,
Yeah.
And like she was saying, we're such better musicians now. It's easier. I remember some of the riffs we would hit that back in the day. And my fingers were getting arthritis just trying to work on it. And now it's easy. It's like, wow, okay, that was easy.
But you had only been, all of you, when you think about it, had only been playing music for a short time because you were young. Yeah. And you see, I always think musicians with a lifetime are always really fascinating. Like the people that go out with Steely Dan and Hall & Oates, the players in that band, you're like, these guys, this is a better sound, I think, than they had when they were younger. And sometimes we forget that, because we get tied up with the whole sexuality of pop music and young people and all that. We forget that they haven't had the time set in to play this. They haven't played it long enough. Anytime that I saw any of the blues guys, they were well into their 70s or 80s. And, I always thought that those shows were just unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know? Now, whose idea was it to pull the Revolution back together again?
Everybody
decided.
we were all
Yeah, it was
unanimous
just-
on it pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
We waited a year. I mean, we talked as soon as Prince passed away. We were just immediately talking, and we felt it was something we needed to do. And then we did 3 shows at First Avenue, that building again.
Yeah.
And we kind of, after that, we thought that this was really needed for people, and us especially. We didn't know how else to mourn him. I mean, music was everything to him. So we thought we'd give back what he gave us, which was some of these great arrangements and these amazing songs. You know, talking about that a little bit, it's, you know, he never looked back. So we get to kind of perfect these songs in a way that he would never let us do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Lisa's talking about. You finding little layers or ways to play something differently, like, you know, that are just open to you now because you can play it every night, and it's really wonderful. It's really great.
Yeah, because you didn't really tour this music that long once you recorded it, right?
No.
Oh yeah, we moved so fast all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Everything
a
went
lot
by.
of times, if we did like controversy and things from the earlier days, Uptown, and it was different back then, you know. And now we have a different energy, a different vibe, and you know, like you brought up earlier, you know, we're more seasoned now, so it feels different. It's even funkier.
Yeah.
It's even tighter now than ever.
And you now have an audience who didn't just love this music for 6 weeks or
Right.
12 weeks. You've had people that have listened to this music every day of their adult
And
life.
big events in their life.
Right.
Yes.
Big events in their life. This music
Yeah,
was a part
weddings
of.
and
Sure.
childbirth, and it's crazy.
Even that thing where you're trying to build up courage in yourself, whatever you happen to be doing, going for a new job or moving to a new
get
town.
psyched up with "Let's Go Crazy."
Yeah, because that music was written for that reason. It felt like, it was about standing up. But at the time when you finished Purple Rain, did everybody go, "Oh, I think we've got something that can compete with Pet Sounds," or you just didn't know at that time that it was that good?
No, he had a movie attached to it, so there was a lot more
Right.
at stake. It was just kind of mind-boggling what he cooked up in this one instant in his career. Put together this massive, connection of a film, music, soundtrack. We were actors all of a sudden.
Right.
It was all kind of crazy
Yeah.
from the very beginning, for sure.
And we knew it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember walking out on stages and just the roar of the crowd. You were like, yeah. And so we knew, but we didn't understand the impact. That was the difference. We didn't realize how many people it was really touching. It's one thing to like the music. I go to concerts. I'm like, oh, I like them. But it's a whole different thing when it affects your life.
Yeah.
When you grow up and you say that music, that song right there, reminds me of when I graduated from high school or went to the prom or, met my first date, or what it touched so many people's lives. And they even say to us, "You were the soundtrack of my life."
Sure.
Very powerful statement that had a profound effect on me in the way I viewed what we do, because I never knew that growing up playing this stuff. I just knew we were stars, and that's all.
Well, it was such a defining moment for that decade too, and Sgt. Pepper's had that type of thing. But it is rare. It's a rare thing for people to go, okay, this affected not just musically but visually, and it was really a chance for that decade to, I think, stand up and say, we have something genius
Definitely
going on.
was a huge cultural influence.
Sure.
No question.
Now, here's the thing. At the time you guys meet Prince, did you realize that he was going to be one of those type of people did you realize that you were meeting like a Stevie Wonder or Brian Wilson, somebody that was that touched by whatever happens when
No.
somebody has that musical strength?
I mean, I met him, in a studio, just cold, and I certainly thought he had the talent. He wasn't refined in any way. Everybody's got a beginning, but I certainly thought talent-wise that he was something special. His demo, he was already playing, multi-instrumentalist, and the songwriting and the vocals, everything was amazing. But did I think he could make the leap into what he actually became? I mean, it's pretty mind-boggling to imagine that, but certainly he displayed at that time, he had unbelievable talent and the mastery of the studio, which was pretty rare.
I came in after Dirty Mind, and my first rehearsal with this group of characters here, I knew. I was like, this guy is the bomb. He's going to be, up there in the stars with your Michael Jacksons and your Jimi Hendrix and you name it. And I knew there was no doubt about it to me, and that's why, early on, my mother, there's a few times I wanted to leave the band because I didn't think I could handle how intense it was to get to where we needed to go. But she talked me into it, and it was very easy because she said, he's going all the way.
Yeah.
And that's what we all want. We strive to be musicians so we can, reach that pinnacle. And he was a person that I knew was going to get there. So, I went along for the ride.
It was a 24-hour-a-day intensity, right?
Totally.
I mean, there's no, it's time off, go do whatever you want to do. It was, we are 100% committed all the time.
4 o'clock in the morning, I call it the bat phone. It's like, you hear that phone ring, it's like, oh man, you knew it.
Yeah.
Well, and that was after already being at rehearsal from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. or something, and then you'd go home and eat dinner, and then the phone would ring, and he's in the studio, and he wants you to come do something. It was just constant, but it was great. I mean, somehow, and when you're young like that, I guess you have the energy and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah, okay, I'll be right over. You're up all night.
You can pull it off. The energy's there.
Yeah.
But that couldn't possibly go on for ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was the thing about him. He always stayed that way. You've always heard these stories. We're still trying to figure him out.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether anybody's going to be able to do that, but you see so many people to try to guess the reason that he was and the way he got inspired.
Well,
and the rest of your lives you're going to be talking about
the
this.
spigot was turned on all the time, from the music. So he couldn't shut it off. He had to let it come out, no matter what.
He lived it. He breathed it.
Yeah.
Isn't that the phenomenal thing about songwriting and that with the fact that we really don't even know where it comes from? Like it does feel like something happens that's outside of our reality.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a conduit.
Right.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's that, also the other thing that's there, the obvious talent.
You've got to have craft. You definitely have to have great craft to catch this. But the idea of creation.
Yep.
You have to, but he could just, yes, the inspiration for songwriting might come to many people, but he had the physical skills to implement these ideas in a very unique way.
He also had a deep faith, spiritual faith in, God and the universe too. And I think he had divine inspiration.
And you felt that even as a young person, you were able to look at him and go, there's something.
He wasn't all human. It was a little different kind of. Susanna used to call him a creature. He was just not
Smoke came out of his
He's very spiritual.
I just feel he was dedicated to this craft. You dedicate yourself like he did, you're going to be great. If you, it's like they say in America, you can be what you can be what you want to be, and that's the truth. But at what sacrifice? I mean, he sacrificed. He wouldn't go to Disney World. I couldn't get him to go fishing. It's like, come on, Prince, let's go catch a trout. He wasn't into anything.
No, he's not into that.
If it wasn't about music, he was not interested. Music or clothing design or something that had to do with his career. He wasn't interested, and he was, he was bent on reaching that pinnacle.
What is it like when you guys are playing on stage and you are the only people in the room who really knew where this came from, the only people on the planet that shared this experience, and you set out to recreate it? It's got to be a phenomenal feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling. I mean, every musician is kind of a loner at heart, but at the same time, you sit alone in your room playing and you fantasize that there are millions of people listening, and that's what we get to experience. And Prince, when he created what he created, was alone and was a shy person, but fantasized it connecting to millions of people, and it did. And so now when we, are about to go on stage, we are armed with, I mean, I hate to even put it in that, but we're just completely filled with so much stuff, so much beauty and creativity and the songs and we can just go out on stage and just start playing, and there's a chemical reaction. The people are there, and they just become just as important as we are.
I think that's one of the more magical things too. Is like the people are there change the performance.
Yeah,
and the people that are listening, of course, they're changed, at least for that time. Something outside of our regular experience takes place. I think it's way more magical. I think we take it way more for granted than we should.
Yeah, because I know how affected we are with a great crowd or something, and we hear
we feed off each other just like anything.
Yeah.
So what are the plans from here? Is there a documentary? Is it just... do you guys sit around and talk about stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a few things in the oven, but right now we're finishing playing the East Coast at the end of the month, and we're going to Europe in February. Kind of like we're making a complete lap of what the first phase of this is, which is now grief, mourning, are turning into celebration. Mm-hmm. I think we're transitioning into kind of a mode where we're appreciating what they're appreciating, or kind of, it's kind of a nice plateau for a minute, if you will. And then I think we'll figure out what we're going to do next.
I do think that that's a very smart way of putting it, too, that everybody was so devastated and it felt like it came out. But then you're like, look what was left behind. Mm. You know what I mean? There's definitely, you have to be thankful about what was left behind. And despite whether all of it was pleasant to live with or deal with, just to be able to look at this and say, this is what exists, it's completely a blessing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He used to call us Mount Rushmore, so he was very proud of Prince and the Revolution, and it was one of his greatest achievements. There's a mural at Paisley Park outside of Studio A, and on his left hand, he's in the middle of this big mural. On his left hand are his inspirations, Sly and Jimi Hendrix, Larry Graham, and then on his right are his creations, and Wendy and Lisa and the Revolution, and we're all there. So it is amazing that he left behind such great music, but also people. And we're grateful to be some of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys so much for stopping by. It was so great to meet you, Chris. Let's do that plug.
The Revolution are performing tonight at Sony Hall in New York City, and then at Austin City Limits this Sunday, October 14th. The Fillmore in Silver Spring, Maryland, October 26th. the Wilbur Theater in Boston, Saturday, October 27th, and the Strand Ballroom in Providence, Rhode Island, October 28th. Go to therevolutionofficial.com for tickets and all their tour dates.
Hey, it's the Bennington Show. Your way to get in on Thanksgiving early. Go where, Chris?
BenningtonShow.com, and fill in your information on the pop-up that comes up.
And then we'll make the official announcement of dates and times on Monday, because I know a lot of people like to fly in for this. It's our annual at the Hard Rock. And it's going to be weird for Earl because his two worlds are coming together.
Yeah, the Best of Both Worlds show. It's going to be super, really.
Who's your best friend over at Hard Rock?
Obviously, John, Hard Rock Johnny.
Well, forget that. That's a gimme.
That's why I said obviously.
I mean, regular person. Not big star of the Hard Rock, the man who came up with the concept, Hard Rock Johnny.
Mainly the bartenders, Raul, Aaron, Shanae.
Yeah, I bet you're friends with the bartenders, aren't you? Make sure you get a little yuck. Chris, who's your best friend at Hard Rock?
Hard Rock Johnny, it would have to be.
Mine is a guy they call Petey Smits. He's busboy extraordinaire. Also deals crystal meth.
Oh, nice.
Mainly to employees and some guests.
I never heard.
I mean, is that real crystal too?
People need it. Dude. That glass.
Oh yeah, it is glass. All right, so Michael Sheen coming up next. He's got a Kiri movie out called The Apostle. It's just got that dreary, cold. It's somewhere in England.
Yeah, like in 1900.
Yeah, but that whole well, it's on an island, but I'm sure they shot it somewhere in the British Isles. But it's just really that weather alone can get me down. And somebody was telling me that they were up north in Alaska during the dark time of the year, and they said it would just like early in the morning the sky would get like purple, and then it would just go back down again.
That's creepy.
And they said they were only there for like a week, and they got weird.
I would get really depressed.
I'm very happy with the nighttime. Like if I had to be any monster, it would be vampire.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It must be a werewolf.
Well, werewolf, the one good thing is you can live like a regular life, except for 12 days a year. But then the problem with being a werewolf is a blackout. You don't even know what you fucking did. And I really do feel like that whole thing is based on when the fucking eagle flies, and you're just the fucking guy who, when you drink, you go for it, and then you see your friends, and they're like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck?
There was a transformation. So what?
Mummy wouldn't be that bad because you lived your life already.
No, you're fucking covered in...
No, but you lived your life. You fucking had your fun, and then now...
Yeah, so 2,000 years later, you want to be crawling around because you lived a life back in fucking...
I was a pharaoh.
Yeah, but now you're
who's
a
gonna
mummy.
fucking remember that as a good time? That's like you if you had fucking cancer going, oh, but one time I had a fucking strawberry lollipop. That was so good. You know what I mean? You don't remember the good times. Fuck the good times, man. Earl's entire religion is based on do not have fun because it will cost you long term. Do not put your dick in it. Don't fucking smoke it. Don't snort it. Don't drink it because you will fucking pay. All right. So this movie is about one of my more favorite things, cults. I dig. I think every young man goes through a period where he goes, could I have been a cult leader? And certainly anyone who's like a comic or a public speaker, I mean, how many people do you even need? It's like running a sales team. Like let's say you only have 10 people in your cult, right?
Yeah.
But you put them to work on the street and they come back with the money and just give it to you.
That sounds great.
It does sound great until you find yourself, like any pimp, is fucking just spending all their time chilling people out. You're like, Caroline, come on, you're my favorite. Come here, baby. You know what I mean? It's a lot more annoying.
Too much management.
They say pimping ain't easy, and I'm telling you the truth. It's true. It's absolutely true. All right, this is a weird thing to get into before Michael Sheen, one of the best actors that we have today. Frost Nixon is one of my favorite movies of this millennium, and it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like, there is not enough in that story to fucking cheer for David Frost. You know what I mean? He's too much of a dick. And yet, in the context of this movie, I do. All right, let's bring him in. The Apostle is on Netflix today. Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen in studio. Apostle comes out today on Netflix. This is a scary ass movie.
It's a crazy movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I read the script, I had never read a script like it, which was part of what drew me to it.
Right.
I'd never seen such a weird mixture of elements. I mean, there are things that are very familiar. You know, we're in the territory of like The Wicker Man and those sort of classic horror films. And it's set in the past, set in 1905 on a remote island. A cult are on the island. They've kidnapped a young girl, and the young girl's brother comes to the island to try and rescue her. You know, we sort of know where we're at with that.
Right.
What we discover about this island and this cult and what's going on takes us to places that I certainly had never been before.
I think I react more to horror than any man should. I still have this little kid thing when it comes to horror that'll stick with me for too long.
Oh, I mean, I'm still scarred by Scooby-Doo stuff I watched when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know,
when I was younger, my sister would say, "Oh, come in here. You got to watch this. It's Hitchcock," and I can't get those movies out of my head.
He's
to
the
this
man,
day.
and that's interesting you say that because I've discovered that it's not the horror and the gore and the blood and guts and the shot. It's that stuff that gets inside you and doesn't go away. And Hitchcock was a master of that. Lynch is very good at that, obviously as well. It's that kind of stuff that really stays with you.
Yeah, it's the psychological stuff, and like in this. Just the entire place looks so scared, and it looks like a difficult place to live. Where did you?
Well, it's interesting you say that because where we filmed it is where I grew up. It's my hometown. I grew up in a place called Port Talbot. In South Wales, and we filmed this completely coincidentally. It had nothing to do with me, but we filmed it in the local park called Margam Park, where I grew up. Yeah, so there's a bit of CG to make it look like an island,
right? But
it's the local park. I mean, we were filming it. We built a village just around the corner from a place called Go Ape, where kids are just climbing through the trees and doing, zip lines and that kind of stuff.
But it is a very Wales is like a difficult environment. From the fact that people even settled there, at all.
Well, especially in that South Wales Valleys area where I come from, that's where all the coal mines were.
Right.
So you imagine, during the Industrial Revolution, people started going there, digging up these mountains and valleys to get the coal out, and then the communities were people who came to work in those places. Right. So these communities, it was like the Wild West. They were setting up in the most harsh conditions, and it was really rough. And those communities are still there, even though the industry is gone. Right. And has broken down. Those communities are still there, and that's the place I come from. That's my background. That's where my family still live.
But when you're born into a place like that, do you ever think it's possible to get out, or you just think this is it?
Well,
this is how it goes.
Yeah, it's interesting because you'd think that an area like that wouldn't produce actors, but Richard Burton comes from there. Anthony Hopkins comes from there. So when I was growing up, I had an example there in front of me. Well, these are two of the greatest actors in the world, two of the most well-respected actors. So it's possible. It is possible. Right. And I think that's what's made me feel it's really important to be able to go back and show people who come from, young people who come from areas like that. Look, here is an example of someone who is doing stuff. You can do it. It's difficult. You don't have the same access to opportunity as people from other areas, maybe, but it is possible.
But so that was like you just thought to yourself when you were a kid, Burton came from here. Mm-hmm. It can be done. That's all the example that you need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I had a bit of, I think other people coming from other areas similar to where I came from who wanted to do acting, it would be seen in a particular way. It's a bit namby-pamby, it's a bit poncy doing that. Whereas where I came from, Richard Burton, Anthony Hopkins, they were men's men. This was a noble profession. Right. There was something, it was part of that mining respect for education, self-education and the great works of literature. There was a kind of a real respect for that from a working class town, So I was acting, but I was also playing football, soccer. Right. Was my big thing. And I played rugby, but soccer was my big thing. So usually all the sports lads would make fun of you for doing the acting, and all the acting people would make fun of you for being a jock, you know. But I was better than everyone at both.
Yeah.
So they couldn't make fun of me.
Right.
So I sort of carried that with me really into what I did.
But if you were just a little bit better at football, would you stayed with it? Was there...
Well, that was going to be when I was 12. I hit my peak at 12, to be honest, and I was offered an apprenticeship at Arsenal to go and play in the youth team at Arsenal at the time. But it would have meant living in London. And my mum and dad said, look, you can't, he's 12. He's not going to go
And that's
live in
how
London.
quickly you have to make that decision.
Oh, yeah. I mean, earlier than that now, you know, I mean, it's like 6, 7-year-olds are being, you know, put into academies and all that kind of stuff. But back when I was that age, you'd get an apprentice, you'd be approached, come and, you know, join the team, play as a youth team player, work your way up, clean the boots, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, maybe one day you'd make it into the first team. So looking back on it now, I'm really glad my life went the way it went. Because, you know, I'm still doing my career now. I'd have finished my football career, even if I'd made it to the top ranks. But so I'm glad it went. But at that point, when I was 12 and I found out that my mum and dad had said, no, you're not going. I mean, I said a few curse words.
Well, even
12-year-old
when you watch any like documentary about that, you can see how set up it is, that there's not a lot of improvisation left in the sport anymore, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like you're a little robot that has to do things exactly
And if it doesn't work out, you know, I mean, you're fodder, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one gives too much of a monkeys about whether things work out for you or not. And it's like, I mean, I had a girlfriend who was a ballet dancer. Similar sort of thing, really, in that, you know, from a very young age, it requires you to be obsessed with what you're doing and put all your energy, and your parents have to devote their lives to it, taking you to games or to dances or whatever it might be. And then the thing itself, the profession itself, demands so much of you. And then if it doesn't work out, if you don't make it, there's very little left that you can do. You know, it's really hard to you know, you've sacrificed so much already. So it's a very demanding thing.
Well, and also, I mean, you take the people that have the best bodies on the planet and you damage those bodies. You know what I mean? It's very intense. Ballet is an insane thing to be
unbelievable.
involved.
Dancing. I mean, professional dancers, I have such respect for, because I saw what they go through and what they put their bodies through, and how little they have left when their profession comes, you know, when their career comes to an end. It is rough. And it's exactly the same for sports,
Well, you know, we see ballet dancers right up the street here. And the thing is, they're the people that still smoke, because they don't eat at all. You just see these beautiful little, just angels, just smoking all day long. It's crazy sexy.
I did a film called The Damned United, which was about a very famous British soccer coach, Brian Clough, and there was a sequence in it where it was set in this part of it was set in the 70s. And there was a sequence where there's a big team coming to play his team, and he's quite a small team at that point. And he's, you know, trying to impress them. And you see him, you know, going into the changing rooms of the players and the opposing team. And he's getting it all ready, and he puts out, you know, a bit of fruit, an orange, and makes it all tidy. And then an ashtray on every player's plate, because, you know, they're all smoking. That was, you know, the idea. Now, when I first started playing soccer, when I was, you know, in my teens, I was smoking then. You know, I mean, you'd go, half time you'd have a cigarette.
But I love Damn United too, because you could see that it was still like the last of the rough days. You know what I mean? It was still.
Well, Clough was one of those managers who had a major part of his career before the Premiership League came in, but also then had some of his career after, and that was the big change. You know, where it went from a very particular kind of situation with football, where you could take a team from a lower division and take them to the very top, you know, which is what he did multiple times. And that was why he was such an extraordinary manager. He was sort of like cult leader in a way, talking about Apostle and me playing a cult leader in that. The first time I got interested in cult leaders was when I was doing Damned United.
Is that right?
Because he would take teams that were made up of kind of outcasts, the throwaways from other teams. They discarded these players, or they were not looked on as the great players. He and Peter Taylor, who he worked with, would find these players, bring them together. So they're all kind of vulnerable. They were all felt like their best days were behind them. And then he would just impose his personality on them and shape them into something that became extraordinary. And they became these championship winning teams, moving up the divisions, winning the European Cup twice with Nottingham Forest. It was incredible what he did. You can't do that now. It's absolutely impossible.
Everything is too corporate. It's too
money has changed it so much now. You buy winning, essentially. You know, you look at those teams that are at the top of the British Premier League now, and you know, you teams can come up and down divisions, maybe, but you don't move a team 3 divisions to the top and then win the European Cup without having a lot of money to put into it. It's not about being clever about who you pick.
And those were all British kids playing, and now it's the entire world going there. So some kid who... it always amazes me that this kid is playing for family and village, and all that money needs to come back.
Yeah.
So imagine the pressure on some of these young people.
And it shows why in Britain as well, players who have come from the area that their team is and have worked through and have stayed with that team, and there's not many of them, but the fans love them for it, you know, because that represents something that has kind of got lost from the game now, I think.
Well, yes, that league used to be just neighborhoods. My neighborhood versus your neighborhood is the greatest sports thing that you could ever have. I'm surprised that people even enjoy travel teams, because we always wanted just to beat the kids that live down the street and we thought had a little more money than us. Barely any, but still, like, we acted like they just had the luckiest life ever. But saying that you've always had that interest in cult, I think it's interesting. Anyone who does public speaking could think to themselves, all right, here's the moves that you could make, because you don't need a huge amount of people to follow you if you're taking 10 and 20% from all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I mean, you know, being good at oration, you know, isn't a guarantee that you're a good person. Do you know what I mean? Like, there have been brilliant speakers. Hitler was a great speaker. You know, he was able to move people, and we've seen, you know, and we saw all kinds of people who are great at moving crowds and doing great speeches. And as an actor, obviously, you know, that's part of my job. I have to be able to try and do that at least. So it is always tempting to go, maybe I should just find an island, set myself up. In fact, funnily enough, I was never interested in maths when I was a kid. You know, I just didn't do anything for me. I couldn't understand it. And I remember one day, you know, you hear about Pythagoras, with the Pythagoras triangles and all that, you know, that stuff. Never interested. Then one day I found out Pythagoras did exactly what Malcolm did. He went to an island and started a religion. And Pythagoras became the leader of a religion on an island. Suddenly I was interested in maths.
But it is also interesting that people still can come up with new religions. And we had a cult leader here recently that everything was based on corporate culture. And he was living upstate, and he was literally working to corporations and actresses. For some reason,
really?
And the actresses would, these, you know, hot young actresses would bring in Wall Street guys and stuff. And you start to put that together, and then the fact that you can hide behind religion, because we have so many things in this country to protect religion.
Well, people are always looking for something, isn't it? We're all searching. We're all feeling that we're missing something. There's something that's not quite right, and you know, and there's a lot of vulnerable people out there, and that can be exploited easily. If you say, I can give you the answers. You know, life is about uncertainty. It's about not knowing a lot. How do you deal with living with not really knowing? And if someone comes along and goes, you know what, I'll take that pressure away from you. I do know. And I can look after you, and I can protect you, and I can show you the way, and you're not going to have to ever worry about not knowing anymore. That can be very tempting to people who are in difficult circumstances.
It is, and also the repetition of doing things over and over.
The structure of it, the ritualistic nature of it. Certainly as we become a more secular society, you know, certainly in Britain we're sort of more secular. It's the danger is that you throw the baby out with the bathwater. As human beings, we need to feel that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And religion used to, you know, do that as well as many other things. It gives you kind of comfort and all kinds of stuff. Gives you structure, gives you ritual. As that has started to break down, it opens the way for people to come and, you know, feed that in all kinds of ways that can be exploitative. And I mean, religion can be exploitative as well, of course, but we do need that, I think.
You know, it took me till I got older till I realized that was one of the main things I loved about rock and roll when I was a kid, that you were in that group, you were all letting go of your individuality, and you became a part of something bigger.
I remember I went to see Nick Cave in LA a few years ago, and there was a bit where he just went out into the crowd, into the audience, and I thought, I am watching like a religious ceremony.
Yes, he's
this
a
is like
shaman in his own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I would imagine it was what like Morrison was like at a Doors show or something. There is something that is crossing the line between rock show and fans. This is something else. We're going into something else here. And that was an amazing experience.
And the fact, I mean, what a performer that he has to be to let go of that thing and to bring people with him. And I think that is as ancient as everything we've ever been looking for.
Yeah.
But I do know this. I think the older I get, the more I'm okay with not knowing. I think when I was 20, I really wanted to know what life was about.
I've realized how dangerous the fear of not knowing is. People who come along and go, I am 100% certain of this. Now I immediately just like, oh, I don't trust you at all.
Yeah.
Whereas earlier on in my life, exactly, very black and white thinking, I feel this and I think this, and then you get the corners knocked off you a bit by life and start to go, oh no, I think the truth of the way things are is why I love quantum physics. I said I didn't like maths. I eventually started getting into quantum physics because it's all about possibility. It's about multiple things being possible all at the same time. And I sort of think, I think that's closer to what I've discovered about life.
Yes.
Is that you have to be in that place of not knowing, that Schrodinger's cat thing, where is the cat dead or alive? It's both.
Yeah, it is both. And you have to be like, okay, I accept.
Yep.
You have to almost go into acceptance a lot. You try to mold the world when you're young. And as you get older, you go, this is the world, aren't we? Happy?
Yeah.
Isn't this a great thing?
I heard someone saying the other day, it was on an album that I was listening to, and there was a little clip of someone going, we don't do life, life does us.
Right.
I thought, that's interesting.
Yeah. I always think it's great, too, you find somebody that you used to, be romantic with when you were younger, and enough time has gone by, but that you could just say, hey, wasn't that great that we shared something?
Funny enough, just a couple of weeks ago, we had a reunion of our year at drama school.
Yeah.
So it's 30 years since I went to drama school, 27 years since I left. So a lot of those people I had not seen in 27 years.
Yeah.
And we all got together, and I was a bit nervous about it, and I think everyone was a bit nervous. And then we got there, and it was just glorious.
Wonderful, right?
I mean, meeting these people, maybe if it had been after 10 years, it would be, but after that amount of time, and to realize how important these people had been to it. We were only together for 3 years, but nevertheless, it was formative.
The most important. I had this same experience with a bunch of people I haven't seen in 30 years, and they all showed up at this show that I was doing, and I looked out at them, and I'm like, this is my tribe, and these are the loves of my life.
Yeah.
And these are the guys that if they said, I have a dead body, can you help? I'd be like, I'll drive down, I'll get a shovel, I'll get some lime.
This is how you get into trouble.
Yes.
This is how you find yourself in the middle of a forest at 2:00 in the morning, shoveling dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on this and everything that's going on with you.
Thank you very much.
And this was fun having you in. It's the Bennington Show coming up in just a little bit. It's Unmasked with the very sweet, delightful Ellie Kemper. This is really your last chance to get in early on the Thanksgiving tickets. It's going to be an unbelievable show this year. And the way that you get on the mailing list for that, go to BenningtonShow.com to join our mailing list to get early access to tickets for the Bennington Family Thanksgiving. And then we will make the announcement on Monday. But as always, let us know if you're coming in from out of town and all that kind of stuff. But it's going to be a ball. Then I'm going to be up. I'm coming home to Poughkeepsie. Jeez. Good old Poughkeepsie, or as we used to call it, Po-Town when I was younger. That's November 3rd at the Laugh It Up Comedy Club in Poughkeepsie. And if I'm not wrong here, we're going to laugh it up. So for that, go to laughitup.net, laughitup.net. Once again, Vito was telling me something stupid off the air, and I told him, as always, shut your dumb pie hole, because I'd rather have this on the show. But I don't know whether you know this, Chris, or you know this, Earl. Vito tells me he's seen ghosts before.
What? So as a kid, I used to get haunted by ghosts, and this wasn't just one time. This was
What is it about Italians and ghosts?
No, this is the fucked up thing. I always thought I'd get haunted by like a family member or something.
But the only people I've ever talked to who have seen ghosts are Italian. That is fucking weird to me. Chris DiStefano does a half hour on it, and every single time he's completely frightened. All right, so you didn't see your family. You didn't see your dad.
It was two specific people from history. It was George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, and it all started with Abraham Lincoln. So
no, well, not really. I mean, it all started with George Washington.
No, but Abe was the first one to do this.
Yeah.
So this happened. The first time I thought it was a fluke. I was a little kid.
What do you mean you thought it was a fluke? It's a fucking ghost to you.
Yeah, it's a real. This happened. First time, open my door, go outside, and.
In the hallway?
No, but the living room is right outside outside my bedroom. Open the door. On the couch is just fucking Abraham Lincoln sitting there, full hat, beard, everything, plasma, like plasma gray looking thing, like a typical ghost that you would see on TV or anything.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
you saw Ghostbusters,
and I thought I had to be dreaming or something. Closed the door, opened it back up. He was gone, and I thought it would never happen again. Throughout my life, this happened.
Did you tell your mom?
No.
So you kept it to yourself?
I kept it to myself.
Now, when you say you're a kid, what are we talking about? 17, 18 years old?
The first time I was like 8, 9. And then it kept happening. I'd wake up, I'd go to the kitchen, and I'd open the door, and fucking Abraham Lincoln would just be sitting there on the couch. And this happened 5 times. And I never told anybody because it fucking freaked me out so much. And each time, same thing.
By the way, this is what happens to people who were touched. And something awful has happened, and then they don't tell.
It happened I'd open the door, wouldn't talk or anything, just open the door, sitting there, freak out, look away, gone.
Now, is this at night?
At night.
Okay.
At night. And then all of a sudden, it switched from Abraham Lincoln to George Washington. And a same exact look, just like white, fucking.
But why you're saying this, right?
Yeah.
This is the only 2 presidents little kids care about. There's not, you know what I mean? There's not another fucking president that little kids care about.
Yeah, it was the 2 ones I knew of, but I was never a big president buff or anything, so there's no reason for that to just be.
There's no such word as president buff. It just doesn't fucking happen.
I wasn't some person just going to read about presidents.
We
all the time.
know, Vito.
Okay, not
we
educated.
No,
you would say.
Yeah, we know. So this went on to what age?
I'd say probably till like 21.
What bullshit? All right, now you're yelling bullshit. All right, let's just play it this way, like we're cops.
Okay,
a cop would immediately act like he understands. So, what would the message be? You're either going to run for president, right?
Yeah.
Or you're supposed to blow up Mount Rushmore. That's the 2 things.
There was no like words spoken. I never got a chance to talk to either of them.
Oh yeah, that doesn't happen when something's not real.
And I would get mad.
You didn't keep running back in your room. You fucking at age 21 walk out there, sit next to fucking Honest Abe and go, "What is it, dude? What is it you want from me?"
It scared the shit out of me every time because it was just a person sitting in my living room. But plasma.
It's probably a date of Leslie. She wasn't telling you.
Man.
Oh, man, that's really bad. That's true. She dates old guys wearing wigs. Now, if you see Lincoln again, say Earl said thank you very much.
Okay.
Earl, that one's for you, buddy.
Thank you, Ronnie.
We freed the slaves. The same people who enslaved the slaves. But we take credit for freeing the people that we enslaved. Well, that is... I mean, to me, to see a hallucination when you're not taking drugs, or maybe you weren't drinking enough when you were a kid, you weren't getting enough non-sugary beverages, you could have been exhausted, but to think that you saw a dead president, that's fucking really weird.
It fucking shocked me every time just because you opened the door and it was right there. Just sitting comfortably.
Now you're saying it's every time you open the door.
No, I mean, not. I'm just saying every time I opened the door and saw.
There was no other thing. You never came out of the kitchen.
No,
and saw,
it was always
opened up the freezer and there's Lincoln's head.
Same setup. Open the door.
What's it mean to you? That's the important part of this. You know what I mean? Of if I was a Jungian therapist, I would say, and what does that mean? You know, what were you either telling yourself or was the universe telling you?
Maybe I needed to study more because I didn't know anything to say to these presidents.
You don't have any money. You don't know what fucking dollars they show up on.
I don't know what money.
You did nothing with this information. This is what annoys me. It's just like when you find out that a UFO lands in bumfuck. They come back with no information other than something went up their asshole.
They wasted it.
I didn't feel like compelled to talk to the president. I just wanted them to get out of my fucking house.
But you picked two guys that wouldn't even come back to New York. You know what I mean? Like if you would have picked a Teddy Roosevelt, since you live on the Upper West Side, that would be like, oh, maybe he would fucking Grant.
Yeah, but if you think about it, what's smarter thing for a ghost to do to just fucking screw with some kid?
No, that's the dumbest thing.
Because then the kid doesn't tell anybody. Then they kept coming back, and I never told anybody.
First of all, you only act like, for some reason, that Washington and Lincoln would come back for evil purposes. I immediately thought that there was a positive message, not let me see if I can scare a kid.
Yeah. I don't know if they were trying to scare me, but just the whole concept of just sitting in the same spot on my couch and then we didn't even make eye contact each time.
You ran away. They were there for you. You were the one who fucking slammed the telephone down. If somebody came to me and honestly believed that they were seeing this ghost, I would go get a message. What do they want? That's every fucking ghost movie.
Yeah,
they don't know they're dead.
But if you're like a 7 or 8 year old kid,
you could be dead too. For all we know, I'm talking to a ghost.
I've thought about that before too.
Look, in the very Bruce Willis way, right?
Yeah.
Immediately, he knew that he had to figure out what they want. And I'm going to assume you even saw that movie.
I've never seen The Sixth Sense. I know the ending.
Dude, you would fucking love it, man. It's so you.
Really?
All the shitty movies that you watch.
Never Sixth Sense.
Andrew Jackson shows up in it.
He's being funny. Now, those people that showed up in Sixth Sense were Philly people. They didn't go fucking 2 towns over.
I've thought before, like you said, what if like you're dead right now? That there's a version of the afterlife that's like, you don't know that you're actually dead right now. You die at some point. Like maybe you fell in the shower one time. It was a close call, but you've actually just went on. Your brain just keeps on going and living the rest of your life out, and you never know you die.
Or if there was if reality is a reality, this whole thing could just be some fucking concept in your fucking existence. And when you don't see me and Chris and Earl, we don't exist. Okay, that's probably what's happening right now. You are making up this entire reality.
I don't like that.
Why wouldn't you like that?
I don't want to be in charge of this whole reality.
Apparently, you've been doing a pretty boffo job with
That's
it.
a lot of pressure to just know that
you're in charge of everything.
That's why I always say, don't care if you get fired or not. You're making it up.
I've never seen any ghosts. I've never had any sort of ghost thing. But I did have a imaginary friend called Mr. Bad Hand as a child.
Were you jerking off?
Mr. Bad Hand was a creepy guy.
What did he do?
He would say, "Hey, want to play Bad Hands?" That's what he would say to me. Want to play around a Bad Hands?
How old were you, Badhead?
When I was hanging out with Mr. Badhand, I was probably like below first grade. So
Whoa.
Like,
that's funny how that would come into this.
5 years old, 6, somewhere.
So your uncle would come in and jack you off.
He didn't have an uncle. This is the more confusing part.
No, but you remember Mr. Badhand.
Yeah, Mr. Badhand.
Yeah.
And playing a couple rounds of Bad Hands.
No, why would you say it's an imaginary and you called it friend? A terrifying friend.
Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, now that I say it out loud, it's pretty scary.
Thanks for this, dude. Original Chris.
OC.
running downstairs to grab me some of that sweet fucking cappuccino. Yeah. I guess I'm Italian. I don't know.
Did you see any ghosts?
I had, I would say during a fever, when I had scarlet fever, I had auditory hallucinations, if that's a fucking phrase.
It is.
But I heard someone screaming at me, and I heard it sounded just like a piano thing going back 2 notes, like driving me crazy. But my fever, and I would have been like first grade maybe, my fever was running up 105, 106. And what's really funny is having that disease, and I didn't go into the hospital, but then because they didn't get all of it out of me, when I went back when I was like, I think I would have been in 4th or 5th grade that summer, they're like, oh, you're still filled with this fucking, whatever it was, stress, some kind of fucking weird shit. So I had to go in again for 10 days. Even though that's one when I didn't have it,
Yeah.
I was just carrying it. And I guess, I don't know, polluting other people or getting them again myself. It was all very weird. But in that case, this is why you can't trust the kid's brain. I had been like trying to get out of school and stuff, is why I actually went to the doctor, and I fucking felt like I was faking, an illness. And then when they were like, as soon as they did this, like culture test on me, they're going, come on, dude. You know what I mean? Like I got rushed away, and I'm like, what did I do with my mind? Fucking made myself sick by fucking being a bad kid? You know what I mean? And the whole time I was in the hospital, I was like, and they were like, you knew you weren't feeling well. And I go, did I? Okay. Because I was just like, I thought I created it with my fucking mind. Now, I didn't get jerked off by Mr. Badhand or see a nickel and a dollar and act like it was sitting on my couch. But I had I would never say like imaginary friends, but I would make up imaginary scenarios all the time. But I completely ran them.
Yeah, I felt like I was not in control of Mr. Badhand. And then there was also someone called Wawa who was more friendly.
Did he give you hoagies?
I definitely don't.
Wawa! You fucking idiot!
Yeah, Wawa was much
Who
better.
else? Circle K? 7-Eleven?
Sheets was also there.
Now, what would Wawa do?
Wawa would like sing to me like row, row, row your boat. That's what I remember. That's really the only thing I remember about Wawa. I remember talking to my parents about Wawa.
Was Wawa licking your balls?
I don't think so. I think Mr. Badhead had that control of that area.
Now, my nephew had a friend named Mr. Red Apple, and it literally would scare the adults in the family when he would talk about him, because he was like, is that him? And fucking the adults would be like, let's get in the other room right now.
Oh, God.
Because there's something incredibly weird about little kids when they can be like so locked into it.
Yeah, that's very creepy. And there's been plenty like movies that just have had little kids just using kids to just scare the shit out of people.
Dude, when Gail was little, I mean really little, like 1, there was my mother-in-law had this champagne phone that they never even used. People used to give out these stupid phones. They would be like a hot dog or something.
Yeah.
You would get it for starting a magazine. So there was this champagne phone that wasn't picked in. And she would pick it up and say, this is Goey. This is Goey, my friend. And they were like, what are you doing? I go, maybe whatever ghost they are is using the champagne phone to fucking talk to her. And they're Italians. So instead of enjoying this thing, they went full fucking Vito to Stefano, freaking out, believing in it.
Well, I had an imaginary friend named Goody that I talked to on a payphone.
Oh, you told me?
Yeah, and it's always freaked me out that Gail had Gooey.
Goey.
I had Goody.
Gooey's a stupid name.
No,
What is yours?
Mine was Goody, and it was a payphone on 66 in West End that I would stop my mom from walking to go talk to him.
How old were you then, man?
That was really young. That was like
15, 16?
Yeah, like
This morning.
But yeah, I would go do that every day.
What would it say to you? Kill yourself?
No. We usually just kind of actually because we talk about heaven and shit.
You would?
Yeah.
It's so fucking sad.
It's really sad. It was. I would ask.
All these things are sad. All right, Earl, your imaginary friend, Jesus. What would he say to you?
And I never had imaginary friends or I used to
friend.
dream about ghosts, but never had a ghostly encounter.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts. What would you say to Vito? Some people got the shining.
That movie always still creeps me out.
Yes, it fucking should. There's some other movie that's supposed to be a smart fucking horror thing that Gail said, promise me you'll never see.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I go, all right, I won't.
What was it?
I forget the name of it. Something that's out right now. I think it began with an H.
Okay.
Oh, it was called Goody Goody Gonna Get Ya.
What?
I'll see that, just as long as Mr. Bad Hand doesn't show up.
No, they don't show any kind of pedophile stuff. Mr. Bad Hand.
Mr.
You
Bad
know how fucking... You gotta go to a therapist, dude.
What?
Everything about you's fucked up.
Why dredge that shit up? If I've blacked it out, because I don't remember shit about my childhood, a very, very small amount of memories.
That's a real sign.
I know.
What age do you start having memories?
I would say I vaguely remember second grade.
So you don't remember first grade? No teacher, no fucking
No,
kids.
I couldn't tell you the teacher.
You remember
Couldn't
kindergarten?
No, I don't remember kindergarten at all. The only thing I remember about, I have one memory. My dad was supposed to be driving me to kindergarten. He was driving truck at the time. Instead of driving me to kindergarten, he was just loading beer from the back of a fucking supermarket. I don't know if he was dropping off or picking up. I have no idea what was going on. I just remember
being a robbery. It was 3:00 in the morning.
I just remember being in the back of a supermarket and there was a truck.
Can I ask you a question about the interns? Both of them. So they'll go get me a cappuccino, right?
Yeah.
And they bring sugar.
Yeah.
No stirrer, ever.
I'm going to bring that up to them.
That's silly.
It's not just silly, it's goddamn criminal, is what it is.
What do they expect you to just go like, that's...
Okay, you don't even have to go through the problems of it. We all understand
No, it's just
the problems of
infuriating.
not having a stirrer. Well, who's in charge of the interns?
Me.
Goody?
Goody, Mr. Badhand.
Stop lumping Goody in with Mr. Badhand.
I think they were friends.
He wasn't molested.
I was like...
Yours was not a fucking imaginary friend. It was a friend of your parents.
Yours was like a pedophile, and mine was me coping with death.
Come on. There was a friend of my father's I remember.
Did you ask
vaguely.
about your dad?
I did. That's what the heaven talk was, getting updates.
That's pretty sad.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
And he looked like Humpty Dumpty. He was an Eggman.
Your dad?
Not my dad.
So look, you had such little imagination.
Yeah, I just took something
you
else.
just took a fucking thing. Which, by the way, why would they want to teach us about a fucking talking egg who fell and then couldn't be restored?
It's a bunch of bullshit.
I never understood why just all the kings, like, why was he so high ranking?
Well, apparently, he was beloved. I mean, if we had a talking head, everybody would try to help. But how about this? It's one thing that king's horses can't put them together. They got fucking hooves. How are they going to put a giant Eggman back together? So you stole the image.
Just the look. Yeah, the look was Humpty Dumpty, just straight to the, just eggs, legs, crown.
Vest. He always had a blue vest. Fat fuck. They didn't know what to do with him. They know they couldn't put a fucking suit jacket on him.
And there was one day where I wanted to call Goody, but the movie Payphone was coming out on DVD, and fucking K-Rock took over the booth and was doing some promotion, and I was pissed as a kid that I couldn't get into the phone booth that day.
What really embarrasses me is I saw that movie as a fucking adult. And it was as bad as your fucking made up story. Now, you think any kid could watch that movie and go, what are they even fucking talking about? Why don't they just call him on his cell? Earl, when did you get a cell phone? You remember?
96.
Wow.
Early.
That's early, right?
That's real early.
I was earlier than that because whoever was doing the gimmick had given them to us, right? But they were like big, awesome. And I only just plugged it into my car and used it. I called it the car phone. I did not go around carrying this thing with its giant fucking battery. And I would just like be fucking using it in the car. Like I was, I don't know, Mr. Drysdale or something. Just fucking idiotic holding this big thing up. Hey, how you doing? Excuse me, I'm on the fucking phone right now. I was driving around in a convertible down in Florida.
Sounds
with
great.
My giant Don Johnson phone.
I didn't get one until like 2003. I think that's pretty late.
Earl, how long you been on Twitter? Because I understand it's 10 years old. I remember when it came out, everyone said, please go on Twitter. And I go, I will not.
I think I'm going on 7 years.
Wow. You're like only 3 years late into the game.
Maybe 7, I'm not sure.
And now you tweet something stupid every day against the MTA.
Yeah, I always do it when I'm on the platform. I'm just yelling incessantly about their complete incompetence.
It's some poor MTA employee. There's just like somebody that's just getting yelled at by you every day.
Yeah, but they give these vague, stupid answers like, hey, I've been waiting 35 minutes on this sweaty platform. And they're like, where are you? I'm like, I'm at Port Authority, 42nd Street.
Why do they talk that way?
Can you give us your location? I just said I'm at 42nd Street on the platform. No, they'll just repeat what I just said to just buy time.
But they respond.
But why do you do it? You're only paying what, $3?
$2.75.
Oh, $2.75.
I'm sure
I round up. I don't think. What can I do with this quarter savings? This is what I don't fucking understand, Earl. What's going to make you figure out that they don't give a fuck? You're one of millions of people who every day have to fuck around with the train.
It's just, for me, it's just a coping mechanism just to get through the commute because I have the MTA has given me a new phobia. Because there's certain car lines that the doors are locked, and I remember, was it 2 summers ago that F train got stuck in the tunnel in the middle of the summer and the AC crapped out. And people were you couldn't move between cars or anything. I'm afraid of getting. I think of getting buried alive. I guess it is buried alive. I never had.
By the way, I don't even consider that a phobia. You're claustrophobic.
I never was claustrophobic, and now I am completely claustrophobic.
What are you going to do when you're on these fucking elevators when they don't open up? That happens more than that.
The weird part is I don't think about it. I mean,
think about that today when you're riding the elevator. Hey, if this thing just locks up and it's 2-3 days before I get out of this box,
yeah,
you know. And what if the people in there with you just start freaking out, scratching and going crazy, and you have to fucking knock one of them out, but you end up killing them? How are you going to explain yourself if that thing just starts again in 2 minutes and in 7 minutes you've committed a murder?
Blood all over my hands.
Yeah, you can't be in there and say goody goody and Mr. Bad Hands made me do it. Coming up in just a few minutes, it's Unmasked with the very lovely Ellie Kemper. I mean, this is the kind of girl you want to be married to. Am I correct about this?
100%.
You got to find your own Ellie Kemper, and not a Costa Rican version.
No.
I got a feeling this year Christmas you're getting engaged, Chris.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any plans to do that.
You're gonna lose her like you did the last one. You're gonna lose her.
The last one really that should have ended years before it actually did.
And yet you lied to us every day and told us how in love you were and how great.
I was lying to myself. Okay?
Guess what? You're still lying to yourself and you're still lying to us. Just get engaged, would you please?
No plans to get engaged. We're very happy.
You're not going to raise that baby a bastard. You're getting engaged to that girl.
You rock shopping?
No, there's no rock shopping, Earl.
We're right around the corner from the Diamond District.
Yeah. Like, if I were to get a ring, like, well, is cubic zirconia bad?
Yes.
Why is it bad? It's just as sparkly as a diamond.
Look, if you want to say to me, is it the idea of a diamond stupid? I will agree with you.
Okay, good. All right.
And yet, that doesn't mean that we live in a world where people agree with us.
It's unbelievable.
You need to take 1 month of your salary, almost $400,
I can't,
and put it into it.
I can't sling that, Rod. I got rent to
you
pay.
do have a great way of drinking every night.
Well, it is fun. But there's no plans on an engagement. I know I'm right by the Diamond District.
What if I go down to the fucking sales department and say, if you guys will we'll do live reads, we'll talk about it.
No.
That's what we did for Dave. His entire life was fucking fake.
It was a wonderful evening at the Hard Rock.
Not even all of it was good. Just some parts. What is it? You want to read something?
No, I don't.
I keep seeing you go. You pick up a paper and you hold it, and it makes me like, what is he doing? What is he up to?
Well, I do want to mention that Ellie's new book, My Squirrel Days, is available now for purchase.
Okay. Was there a rush on that?
I think it's not a real rush.
Why don't you mention this is right now will be the last time that we can tell you how to get Thanksgiving tickets early.
And to do that, you go to benningtonshow.com to join our mailing list. A pop-up will show up immediately. You put in your information, and that's how you join the mailing list for early access to tickets to the Bennington family Thanksgiving.
Now, most of this we don't have nailed down because we're still working on a clock. But what we do, epic. Epic!
I can't wait. I'm
psyched. This is my first one.
Earl, you've been to them before.
No, man, first one being in the inside. I was always kind of...
No, we brought you in. You were all part of it.
No, I understand that, but being part of
You're not going to do any more work than you did that night.
Earl's been to every single one.
Yes.
Been in two of the shows.
But I've always felt like, you know, a guest.
The only black guy? Yes. Is going to feel the same way. That was up to you that you felt like a guest. You could have jumped in all you wanted.
Completely understand that, but now this one is special to me. They are all special.
So far, I don't have any role for you. And this is the first time in all these years. Because it's not going to be exciting when you come out. Because they hear you every day. It was always great before. You remember him? It's Earl Douglas. Cheap pop. Well, I'm looking forward to it too, Earl. And I'm glad you're back. And I'm glad Mr. Badhand is here and goody goody.
I hope Mr. Badhead is in here. I don't want to get jerked off by an apparition again.
So it did jerk you off.
I'm going to guess so. If the fucking thing's name's Mr. Badhand,
yeah,
it has to be something to do with my dick or butt.
I wasn't even thinking butt.
Like, it could have been the butt, too, because I don't remember shit from childhood, dude. And Mr. Badhand was all up in me, I'm thinking.
Dude, I had coffee in my mouth. It's so fucking... I had my hand... by the time you guys started butt talking... Because the thought of you as a child having a finger up your ass was just so hilarious to me.
Hilarious?
Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't give a fuck what happened to you when you were a kid. Somebody could have beat you with a shovel, I'd be cracking up. It would just answer so many questions, Badhand.
I know. I think Mr. Badhead's responsible for a lot of things I now do in my adult life.
Now, Chris, are we going directly into the Unmasked, or are we breaking first?
We are going to break first before the Unmasked.
Okay, so just minutes away, it's the Unmasked with Ellie Kemper, and you know her from the last couple seasons of The Office, and then the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. And remember, I mean, it seems like it was only yesterday that they were going crazy that this thing was debuting because it was Netflix.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's a fucking series on Netflix. You can watch the whole series in one day. And now everyone just expects that.
Yeah. And when's the new season of Kimmy Schmidt?
Well, anything. I mean, you expect, even on ABC, you're like, why can't I get all 22 of these? Next, Unmasked, Ellie Kemper. This is Bennington. Ellie Kemper, come on, everybody! I do not like an audience that stops clapping before you get to the chairs.
Oh, they kept clapping.
Okay, good.
Did they? Yes. Okay. Passed the first test.
It's so great to see you here, and this is a pretty exciting time for you, right?
It's very exciting. I just wrote a book.
A book?
Thank you for having me, first of all. It's very kind of you. And I am honored to celebrate this, for me, momentous occasion.
Well, there's also a lot of rumors going on right now that you could replace Nikki Haley at the UN, and I find that to be fascinating.
Well, you know, rumors don't start out of nowhere, and I feel like there is, you know, some kernel of truth in this, and I'm not going to talk about it at length on this show, but, you know, que sera, sera. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
The book, My Squirrel Days, what a title.
What a title. Yeah.
And this is from when you were a kid, right?
Yeah. Yes. This my Squirrel Days title refers to one of the central essays in the book, which is about my ultimately unsuccessful attempt to try to befriend a squirrel in my backyard. I named her Natalie. I had friends that were people, but I wanted to commune with nature. I was fresh off a viewing of Dances with Wolves.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I felt like that is something that, is important. And I thought it was cool that Kevin Costner was able to step out of his comfort zone and bond with nature. And I also was a huge fan of Dickon from The Secret Garden, and he had like blackbirds on his shoulders. And I just thought, okay, I would like to go that route. And the squirrel didn't want to be my friend.
Well,
that's okay. I've forgotten all about it.
My dad told me that squirrels are just rats with really nice tails.
Yeah.
And
really nice.
Yeah. Well, that's what I learned how important accessorizing is. Yes. I go, you got to really, bring it every single day. But I just love the fact that you saw, Kevin Costner with 2 socks and thought to yourself, I've got to do that myself.
I'm very impressed that you remember 2 socks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always remember the line that if he comes back tomorrow, I will call him 2 socks. Like, you're not naming him today. You're waiting. You're waiting to see if it's even worth it to name him.
I love that. There's so much power in that statement. Like, so much high status. Like, if he comes back tomorrow, he'll get a name. But you already named him. Yeah. You know what the name is.
But this was like even a heavy movie for you because you weren't allowed to watch these kind of movies.
That's right. I was not. It was Dances with Wolves is PG-13, and I was not allowed to see PG-13 movies, which I stand by. Like, it's called PG-13 because a lot of the material is unsuitable for children under the age of 13, but also beyond that, once we turn 13, my mom pointed out that's not just like, they're not recommending that you that you race out, jump out of a way, that you race out to go see the movie. Yeah. It still means that there's some some raw material there. So I think that's what it felt like, something I shouldn't be doing, even though we watched Dances with Wolves in my 7th grade Western Civilizations class, which and Far and Away. Yeah. Isn't that she did not want to do very much work, I guess.
No. Not at all. No. Let Tom Cruise handle it. Yes. Tom Cruise. Just do what he did. But I even, these are fictional movies. Right. And why?
Why show them?
Yeah.
No, I mean, really, that is... I don't want to. Okay, I feel like that's an unmotivated. What's a kind way of putting that? I'm not sure the teacher was thinking that through.
Public school,
private school, on top of everything else.
That's really bad. Then.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
You grew up Catholic? Is that?
Yes, I am Catholic.
Still,
before you go on your anti-Catholic rants. No. Yes, I grew up Catholic.
Look, I'm just saying this. That's the Virgin Mary I wear.
There we have it
around my neck.
I didn't know you wore that around your neck. Yeah.
I don't believe in leaving the house. Are you
Catholic?
Yes, I grew up that way. I mean, I don't know if I'm up to date on it. Yeah. Because, you know what I mean? They never tell you, hey, you're out. Right. You know what I mean? So
do you go to church? Or maybe before asking you, I should disclose to my own so it's not so rude. I go to church. I have a 2-year-old, and I want him to go to church with me, but it's hard with a 2-year-old because what is interesting to a 2-year-old about sitting on a wooden bench for that long? Wooden bench, a pew for that long. But I don't think you're ever out, right?
I don't know. It gets a little dicey, but I almost feel like it's like saying, "Oh, I'm no longer Irish," or "I'm no longer," you know what I mean? Like this is where your people came from.
I think that's right, and I think if you've grown up, in that religion and raised, it's always sort of Inuits. In some capacity.
Of course it is. Yeah, it's all part of you. But the last person I did this show with before you was Ricky Gervais, and he goes way in the other direction.
In what way?
He's a real atheist, very serious. Let me explain to you why all this culture
was
makes
that
no
how
sense.
He was raised?
No. He just figured it out on his own.
Right.
He put everything together.
Right.
But I think you tell in your book maybe my favorite Ricky Gervais story of all time, because he's always in awkward situations.
Yeah.
But you took him even further.
I took it to the next level. I only met him twice in my life, and the second time was running away from him because I didn't want to show my face. I was on The Office, and he obviously was created the British Office, and I was at the Emmys for the first time as a member of The Office. I had just gotten on the show the year before, and I saw Ricky Gervais on the red carpet, and I thought, well, he would be honored to meet me. I'm kidding. I am not. Why did I think he would have any interest in talking to me? But I went up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm new on the show." And he said, nothing. And he he looked uncomfortable and walked away. And I was rattled by the experience because I thought I had overstepped my bounds going up to this guy. And so later I was talking to BJ Novak, who played Ryan on The Office and was a writer on the show and a producer. And I told him about my encounter, and he said, "Oh yeah, I talked to him. He thought you said I'm you on the show." And I was like, I don't know what to do with that. It makes no sense. Yeah. I'm you on this show. It sounded like I thought I was, it's either like she doesn't understand how reality works, or that I was like presuming to be as important as he was on the show. Either way, it was bad.
I'm you on the show.
Yeah, delusional. Yeah, I'm you.
Now, do you believe BJ Novak, or do you think that could have been a prank?
I had never thought about whether I believe him until this moment, because I believe everything I'm told. So I was like, it was said. The fact BJ was not near me when it happened.
Yeah.
So the fact that he said "I'm you" on the show, and that he quoted it so or misheard it so accurately, made me think that Ricky Gervais was just, "Oh, that girl." I can't do British accents.
No, that was perfect.
That was good, right?
I got scared.
Yeah, you're like, is he back?
Yeah. So
I'm very good.
Not only did you have that awkward moment, but he was walking around the Emmys saying, "Oh my God, this girl came up to me
and thought I was you." Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I'm wondering. Yeah, he must have volunteered the story, because it's not like BJ was like, "Hey, did you run into Ellie?"
Yeah, and it wasn't even to BJ. It was this people from other 100%, shows, network people.
It trickled down to BJ, or trickled over. I don't mean he's below anyone. I just mean it trickled over.
You were right.
He's bottom of the heap.
It's this career of yours. How are you surprised, or was this the plan that you would have this kind of life?
Yeah, I think that I'm surprised, because I tend to take things like a year at a time. I think I still do. So I didn't have a dream of growing up and working in show business. I don't know what your own childhood dreams were, but I thought about going to high school, and then I thought about going to college. And only when I graduated from college did I think, well, now I need to figure out what to do next. But I do think, like, in a sort of a vague way, and I'm not recommending this to your younger viewers looking for inspiration or life and career advice, because I was doing a lot of improvisation at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater and the People's Improv Theater, and I was doing shows and writing my own shows, and I thought, oh, I guess what would be an amazing job would be to have a job on a sitcom, because you could perform, you would have the security of knowing that you were on a show, but it wasn't like, that is what I'm going for. It wasn't a specific goal like that, which I think can work maybe for you or against you, because it's always helpful to have a goal that you've carved out for yourself, but also maybe you don't want to limit yourself. But in any case, I don't think this was the life I envisioned having. But I also, to be fair, I never looked at life past 40. This is so grim.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, you'll be dead by then.
Yes.
I don't know why.
You know why?
Why?
You're Catholic.
Yeah.
And 33 seems to be about as old as you can get. You're like, hey, if Jesus couldn't keep it together how could anybody?
Yeah, exactly right.
But I love the fact that so many people worry about the future, and you no 5-year goals, just get this done.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that's admirable. I mean, I think I think that is a combination of, when I first moved to New York, my parents were helpful, and they, in many ways, but they helped me financially. So I want to be upfront about that, because not many people have that advantage. So my I had to work, but I guess what I'm saying is that I knew that if something, if I were to fail, that I did have a safety net. I don't know if I recommend or advise against that, but I think in terms of feeling like, I I think there's an importance in being very hungry and thirsty for something. I'm not saying that. I mean, for career stuff. Yes, and so I think that that is.
But just so you know this, every kid in Brooklyn has a safety net.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You can't come to New York anymore without some kind of help.
It is so expensive here. It is so expensive here, like crazily expensive. And I look around at my neighbors and everyone that I pass on the street. I'm like, how is anyone affording to live here? Like it's insane. So I don't know how people do that, but I guess we do. We all live in New York, but or maybe not our listeners, maybe not all our listeners, but so I think that there is. I feel I didn't want to. I just wanted to address the thing of like a feeling, not desperate, but I think there's an importance in feeling heartbroken if something doesn't work out, because I think that can make you more serious about doing it. But I'm not sure what my larger point is.
No, but you're saying like know that you're on the edge when you're chasing your dream. This is a big part of it, and you were. I mean, this is a scary move for somebody to move into the city and go, I'm here for show business. It's really strange.
Yes. And it is very strange. And I think especially when your classmates or, other friends living in the city are going after careers that seem more defined, or at least that there's a more, a measurable way, a means of charting your success, that when you're doing something that isn't, I don't want to say, I guess as traditional, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but if you're doing something, in the arts or something that doesn't have such a set path, I felt so pathetic much of the time, because I felt like I was inviting these friends to improv shows, and I would always refer to my work as work. Right. And literally once my friend laughed at me. She's like, work. I was like, she's not my friend anymore. But I mean, you have to consider it work.
That is true. If you're young in this city, you are expected to show up at a lot of people's performances.
Yes. And my friends did that very graciously.
And then you have to go to other people's performances and lie to them.
Right. You were great. I love the part where you guys brought back, I'm trying to think of an improv show on the spot and I can't. Never mind.
Well, it is really, I always think out of all the arts, going to an improv show, it can be fantastic, but most of the time, it is not.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know, which is why I applaud those friends who support you and keep going. No, it's rare that it's an incredible experience, which I think is why when it is, it's that much more spectacular, because imagine you haven't planned any of it. So it's like you're totally captive, or you're at the discretion of like
the mercy. You're at the mercy of these people, and you're like saying next, wait, this is a firehouse they're in, because you don't see any of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
People are yelling out, this is a doctor's office.
Oh, exactly.
It's a very, and when there's people like 20 or 21 years old doing this, it's not like they have a lot of life experiences. They don't know what these jobs even entail.
Right. I played a realtor once in a scene. I was like, what are you? You don't know anything about real estate or selling it or what square feet are.
But do you look back on those days now and romanticize them so much?
Totally. And I think there's so, of course, I got so depressed during so many periods, because you feel like that you are just flailing and directionless. So, but I don't think about that when I remember those days as any older person does. But you think about, it was so not wild, maybe not wild, but it was so. I think of it as being very innocent and very like raw in a way that was like we weren't jaded yet. But I know that that's not the whole truth. There was a lot going on.
There were plenty of nights where you're like, I hate this.
Oh yeah,
I despise this.
I would watch this is disgusting. I would like cry, and like I would watch myself in the mirror crying. That's so dark and narcissistic all at once. Disgusting.
I swear to God, when my daughter was very young, she used to do that all the time. And then she would be crying, looking in the mirror, and then she'd go, I'm crying. And we would look. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it is.
She wasn't that sad if she could recognize. I'm saying that's good.
She was like, look, at me, everyone. I feel. You know what I mean? When she was like, look at how sensitive I am.
How old would she be when she did that?
30.
Yeah.
No, she still does it. It's the weirdest thing. Now, but what I think is funny, you went to Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
You went to Princeton, so your parents, the pride they have of you're going to Princeton to now you're in the city taking improv classes.
Right.
You're like, why? We could have done this 4 years ago.
Yes. It was
Save
like,
$200,000.
And I never told them about Far and Away. Like all this wasted money on education, from private school watching Far and Away to Princeton to taking improv classes at a dirty, danky underground theater. They're genius parents because they managed to. I have 3 siblings, and all of my siblings are hugely successful. It sounds like I'm bragging, but they're my siblings. They're not me, so I can brag about them. They're smart, driven people who I think place a lot of emphasis on doing things well, which I think people should do things well. If you're going to do them, you should do them well. But my parents never. I don't know how your parents were, but my parents didn't sit me down and or any of us down and like advise or put any pressure on us about what field we should go into or not go into. And I do think my dad probably, for some reason, I get the sense that he thought, oh, she'll try this for a couple of years and she's out of college and she's young and, this is a passion of hers, but, maybe after a beat or two realize, oh, this is going to be the odds of succeeding are slim. He never said this to me. That's like huge, that's a huge philosophy I've constructed of his that he never said anything about. I think I projected, but I think it was more that like when I did gain success, each step along the way was so encouraging that I felt like, okay, well then I'm going to stay at it. But they were never disapproving or felt like you need to be realistic about this. In fact, I do remember going back one year for Christmas, and it was what we were talking about earlier. I had a friend, a colleague, they worked at an investment bank and were predictably jerks. And they said, no, I'm kidding. I love investment bankers are some of the best people we have. But he said something like that he would never allow his kid to pursue acting or to be an actor. And I thought, first of all, it's just so rude to say, I just told you I'm trying to be an actor. That's just a rude thing to say. But also, it's demoralizing. And my dad was like, well, he is probably upset that he's not doing something that he enjoys more. So isn't that nice of my dad? No, he was saying you should stick with it.
I do think that is true when it comes to parenting. Just be like, okay, you're heading somewhere. We don't know. You know what I mean? We like most of what we thought were secure jobs leave now. Anyway, whole industries disappear.
You mean that there is no necessarily no jobs?
Everybody's kind of in a gig culture now.
Right. Well, right. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
No,
that has changed.
My big fear, I grew up in an industrial town, and my big fear was to work in a factory. And now there's no factories anyway. I should have just chilled out. I should have just been fired. I should have said to my dad, I want to.
Right. Right. Did they advise you, or I keep saying advise, did they put pressure on you? Or was it even a conversation?
At 17, I left for the carnival. So I don't know where their heads were, whether this was a really good idea. They were just like, okay, man, off you go. But what you learn as an adult, all those experiences help you in whatever you're doing.
That's right. Yes. And I really see it now that I've only been a parent for 2 years.
Yes.
But you have so much appreciation for what your parents did. I don't understand them completely. Yes.
Yeah.
Who can ever truly know their parents, but I feel like I at least understand.
Yeah.
And again, it's only been 2 years, but what they were going through.
Right. I mean, I think that's real maturity when the day that you figured out that your parents are just people.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Like for a long time, you're like, they're either evil or they're geniuses or whatever.
Yeah.
And then one day you're like, oh, they were just a couple. And before they know it, they had kids and they did the best that they could.
My mom recently said that because she, her phone did that flashback thing, how your phone was, and it was of James, my son, when he was 2 months old. And I said, oh my gosh, look at me, I don't even know how to hold him. And she wrote back, she was like, nobody knows what they're doing. And I was like, I started to cry. I was like, where's the mirror? I need to cry. I need to right away. I'm crying because it was such a, it's so true. And the fact that my mom was sort of admitting in that, oh, I didn't know what I was doing,
No.
but nobody, how could you know?
You don't know at all when you're a kid. You're like, you don't know what the budget is. You don't know. You're like, oh, my dad, he never wants to go to Hawaii. You know? And then years later, you're like, oh, really? We were living check to check. Okay.
Totally. That was kept from you. I know. I remember the first time I realized that a chair costs money. I don't know. It was like weird. I was like, because I needed a chair, and I thought, I have to go buy a chair, and it was so weird.
Right. And then you realize, wait, this is a major decision.
Absolutely.
How long am I going to have this chair?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And then our parents did all. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really.
The great thing about being young and living in New York is there's always chairs out on the street.
That's true. They don't cost money. Not necessarily.
If you're willing to carry them up a walk-up, you can get a really great deal on old furniture. Some of it just from your actual neighbor. You're just like, you're throwing that out? Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here's a lamp from me.
Yeah. My friend Jo, who lives in Providence, that's the only place she gets her furniture is off the street. But they just drop. But it's more like, it's not even garage sales. They're like setting their stuff out.
Yes, you're setting it out. Yeah.
Take it.
I put out 2 chairs the other night, and I went back after I came back from the Comedy Cellar, and I was going to take my picture just sitting in the chair like it would be funny on the street, and somebody just took the cushions, and I'm like, you don't like these chairs, but the cushions are usable.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I feel like those would smell. Yeah.
Especially mine. I'm not going to lie to you.
I have to. My son is a genius, and he is the best baby there was. But he went to the bathroom on the cushion, the couch the other day. Yeah. But I did that thing. I just turned it over.
Yeah.
I was like, I guess that solves it.
Yeah.
It tried. Then I turned it over.
That's good parenting.
Oh yeah. What is it? Mom hacks.
Yeah. But I do like the fact that you call him a genius. This kid who's peeing on the couch. Brilliant.
He's the best at it, though. Whatever I said. Whatever you do, just be the best at it.
Do you love being a parent more than you even thought you would be?
I will tell you that I think this is the case with anyone who has parented a child. The love that you feel, I know people talk about this, but every cliche is true. It is so powerful, and it organizes your life in a way that you didn't know was possible before. And and it sounds like this should be obvious, but how quickly it changes everything in your life and shifts the priorities is remarkable. And I love being a parent. It's like, I don't know how to answer that question, because it's like, that is what I am now. And
right.
it's just a different mode of existence. And I am so much more emotional now. Like, sure. I don't know if that happens to everyone. And I think he is the most important no, my husband can know this. He is the most important person in my life than my husband.
Normally, the adults won't get upset, but like when you go immediately like, oh, I love someone much more than you now. You know what I mean? Like, I would let you drown to save this, and then that's what being a parent is.
That is what being. And I guess you must acknowledge that to each other. Like, I think we have. I think it's known that James comes first, and then the others. Yeah.
But you should have a talk just to make sure.
Just to make sure that we're on the same page in the lifeboat or whatever. So
see, for me, this is even crazier. Just 2 months ago, I became a grandfather. And that
congratulations. Yeah.
passes everything, and I had no idea that was going to happen. I'm just happy now for no reason.
Oh.
Yeah. This is the longest period in my life that I've been happy all at one time. And a lot of, because it's none of the pressure of parenthood. And then, but I'm just like, oh, she was wearing a floppy hat. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just constantly going back, look at that hat. It's so floppy. It's just really amazing.
And I'm sorry, is your daughter nearby? It's your daughter, right?
She's in Brooklyn. She and I actually do a radio show together. She's off for maternity leave.
Yes,
but it's been the craziest, funnest thing ever.
And you said 2 weeks ago?
2 months.
2 months ago. So do you think you're going, are you taking care of the baby?
No, I'm just showing up. Here's what happened. This is the way I describe it to people. That I feel like I went from being a leading actor to a character actor, but getting really juicy parts now.
Yes!
You know what I mean? Really coming in, whoa!
I love that comparison.
Yeah.
I think that's exact. I'm not a grandparent yet, but I do think that's
that you know of.
That I know. My lips are sealed. What? But I get from watching my own parents who, I mean, it does seem like an amazing.
It is unbelievable and totally unexpected.
Yeah.
Totally unexpected.
Congratulations.
I didn't do anything.
No, you
That's
didn't.
the beauty
You just
of
sat
it.
back and watched. And then you get to do the fun,
do all
the fun
I
stuff.
got something shiny. Look at this. It's a bunny. I'm gonna do it's
and then you're out.
unbelievable.
I know.
Yeah, then I'm going. Then I leave. But but it's like really great because I can see how well she's being taken care of. Like I don't want to come in and take over and say, "Oh, what are we thinking about?" None of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's so great.
Oh my gosh. Well, now this is another like milestone I have to look forward to. Although, yeah.
Just let it happen.
Just let it happen.
Just
No
let it
pressure
happen.
on them kids.
Don't rush anybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, everybody in my neighborhood would say, "Get married. As soon as you got married, have a kid."
Right.
You know what I mean? All that. And now I look back, like, who would have asked people to make these life-changing things?
Right.
To put that on another person.
Right. You mean who would have? Like, why were they doing that?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know where that's coming from. If it's just like we've got to keep the species alive.
I know, and it's also our tribe. Let's keep our tribe together, and then it's the same way we want kids to go to college because we know then you'll be in debt and you'll have to follow the rules.
Yes, and we're all in this together. Yeah. Yes.
How long were you in New York before things started happening for you?
I moved to New York, I think, in 2004, and that is that right? And then 2003, and then I would say probably, about 3 years later, I had an internship at Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and I interned for the casting director there, Cecilia Pliva. So then I got to know her, and she started calling me in to do bits on the show, and that must have been in 2000. So that was about 3 years of being.
That's incredibly fast.
That is incredibly fast. I mean, again, very lucky to have experienced such timing, and I think that the getting a bit on Conan was so huge because not only did it pay well, but it's like national exposure. It's Conan O'Brien, who's the funniest man alive, and you get to be involved on the show like that. So that was. That's good luck.
And it's also because it was that show, it was everybody that your friends would watch. You know what I mean? Like
exactly right.
That's why, I mean, you need to get a cool job like that.
Checked off those 3 boxes, I think. And people at Upright Citizens Brigade she would call a bunch of, improvisers there. And it's the cool show. It's a national show and it pays money. So that was very cool. But I started booking commercials too around that time, which is
nice money?
Nice. Yeah. So and what's about a commercial, like you never are clear exactly what you're going to get because it's based on how, at least the commercials I did were based on how much it ran. So I never know who's keeping track of that. It
is really confusing.
It's so confusing, and there certainly must be a ton of errors because is there someone tracking every time the commercial's on? That's an insane job to have. How could you possibly watch every channel at all the times? I don't know.
There it is.
There
okay.
it is. Yeah.
$10.
Yeah.
$10 right away.
Go write the check. It's one guy in a basement somewhere.
He's just overworked.
Yeah.
He's so stressed out.
So many sweat stains. Oh, he works hard.
When you, by the way, I don't know if everybody realizes just how much UCB changed comedy because the number of people that came out of there.
Oh, I know.
And they're not only in front of the camera, behind the camera, writing. I mean, they've taken over. And then they all also love each other, so they look to use each other in different roles.
Exactly. And I know, so when I started at Upright Citizens Brigade taking classes there, it was, I remember it was, I had to be like online on Monday to make sure I got in. But it wasn't like a race to the finish, and not sure the expression. It wasn't like the odds of getting in were okay. Now it's like I think there's like lotteries, and you can't. It's like difficult to even sign up for a class because the theater is so huge and the program is so huge now, and that's it's a testament to how great it is. But I've had like cousins ask, "Can you help me get into a class?" I'm like, "No, I cannot."
No, I can help you with Princeton. That won't be a problem. But UCB, I can't pull that off.
I can't get you into. No, exactly. But you're right, and I think I started in New York before there even was an LA theater. I think,
right?
And like now that's in LA.
No, it just seemed like they're under a supermarket somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, and it was like. And that place was it wasn't really gigantic. You know, there was old furniture in there found on the street.
Yeah.
And then within like just a couple of years, they're taking over SNL and all the other shows.
Again, I think that they attracted performers. I mean, I did think of it. I went through all the classes in a year, and I did think of it. It sounds corny. People say this about stuff like this, but that it was kind of grad school in comedy. But I think that the education there is unmatched. So there's a reason why it produces or it churns out. No, that it attracts such. I don't know the right word to use, but that there are such dynamic performers from the factory.
Now, when you got The Office, to me, that's always a long shot. A show that's successful brings in a person, and for that person to even get noticed, it's really tough to do.
And also, that was such a well-oiled machine. Not only well-oiled, it was such a good show that you didn't need any additional members. So I felt like the only thing that can happen with the addition of me is it will stay at its current level. Like
that's the best you can hope for.
That's the best you can hope for. So just don't mess anything up. And so, I got a part on it the 5th season when Pam, who was the receptionist, played by Jenna Fisher, was working at the Michael Scott Paper Company. And so they needed a temporary receptionist, which I got that part. And then the story changed and Pam became a saleswoman. And so I got to stay as the receptionist. But that was so daunting because I was such a fan of the show. And then you just don't want to mess it up. And I also had that stupid thing of feeling like I knew them already because I had watched them so many times. Yeah. And I definitely, I really hope I didn't play it this way, but I was like, I think I for sure was like, oh, hey, Jim, I'm here. He doesn't know me. Yeah.
But that is the weirdest thing about TV. Movie stars aren't as approachable, but TV stars really are.
Because they're in your home. Yeah. So you see them once, or you used to see them once a week, dating myself, and you would feel like, of course, these guys have been in my family room. So they are that much more approachable, I think, because of that.
I think the scene that made me know that you're going to be there for a while is there was this weird little dance that you and Carell were doing, and you were doing that thing where you went up and back like that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm so honored right now that you noticed that, because that was from Cafe Disco,
right?
And it's the stupidest episode you've ever seen. And I know exactly because I'm the only one rubish enough to go down and enjoy the Cafe Disco.
Yeah.
And I remember Michael Scott keeps calling it espresso, and we're down there and we're doing and we're going, and it's just and it's a weirdly, it's just too much. Yeah.
But the thing is,
too little.
He didn't have anyone that ever reacted to him like that. That was the beauty. Of that.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, more of his insanity is going to play out because somebody's going, oh, this is great.
Yes.
Yeah. So that wasn't, that's the kind of stuff that, again, happens because it's supposed to happen, but you can't really even plan that with your character, right?
Right. Yeah. That show is so, it's there's improv in the show, but I also feel like it's almost a crapshoot whether things are going to work out or not. Right. It was a scripted show, but that there was that room to kind of add your own take on things, I guess. But the cast of that show just clicked. So I guess that's why part of the reason why the show works so well.
And some of them have gone on to do very well for themselves after that show.
Yes.
But when the show was winding down, it had to be a little bit nerve-wracking for you, right?
Yeah, I was so sad. I feel like I'm more emotional than I would like to consider, or more melodramatic. I remember because Steve Carell left before at the end of season 7, I think. And so I remember I would listen to, what is the song by The National? It was track 9. And I would drive home in my Ford Fusion. And I was weeping as I was on the show for a year or 2. And I was like, I can't believe it's all ending. Dad is leaving. And I would weep to the song by The National. But then I felt there were 2 goodbyes. The first one was when Steve Carell left, because he's the heart of the show as Michael Scott. And then when the show actually did end. But I I think I was more worked up than a lot of the cast members, which is a little bit much of me because I joined like halfway through. But it was special to me. That was of course, my big break. So,
but when that's winding down, you don't know whether you're going to catch another wave. Why would you?
Right,
I mean, it's really hard to get one thing that works.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And as the show was ending, I think we had just wrapped the 9th season, and I shot a pilot for something else, and feeling like, oh, this, who knows? And the pilot didn't go forward, but it is that thing.
Yeah.
Most pilots don't go forward,
right.
So you never know. And that's another thing. Entering a show that is already so successful, that's like, what a treat. Like, you didn't have to agonize,
Yeah, that this show is going to run for a while.
Yeah.
But then you end up with another show, and it's hard to believe, like, about the time that you got that, we were still confused about Netflix, right? We were still like, how does this work?
So was I.
Yeah.
I know.
What do you mean, all the episodes come out?
All at once?
Yeah. And now, I mean, it's not that long ago, but now it seems normal. But at the time, I'm like, what is Tina Fey doing?
Oh, and our show, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, was originally going to be on NBC, or that's what it was set up to be at NBC, and then I think it was like 2 days before we wrapped filming the first season that some folks from Netflix showed up, and it was kind of like, why are they here? But confusing because at the time I think it was Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, and a third show that I can't remember, but it felt so new.
Yeah.
And then now, it totally exploded.
Yeah, it's taken over everything.
Yeah.
But how did you get the call for that? Did they say we have a character, or did they say this character's for you?
It was I met with Robert Carlock and Tina Fey, and because my agent Richard Weitz represents, I'm giving him, I'm name dropping so many people right now, but that he set up a meeting with us because he represents them too, and I think it was when I met with them again, they already had the premise for the show in mind, and it doesn't sound like a likely comedy, because a sitcom, I should say, because it's about a woman who was kidnapped and held underground for 15 years in a bunker. So that doesn't sound funny, and it's not funny, but they made this, obviously they made a comedy about the after, which is like Kimmy moving forward and stuff. But the it was I was approached, or I don't want to say approached. They shared this idea of the show with me, and I mean, yes, of course. You would do anything that they asked you to work on.
Really feel like at that time, like, how could that even happen? You get a call from these folks that are, really, really big in the business.
Oh my gosh.
And so this is about you.
Oh, I know.
You want to do it, but that had to be crazy.
That felt crazy because I idolized them, and I loved 30 Rock, and I loved Bossy Pants in particular, and feeling.
Well, Tina Fey has this reputation as a really awful screamer, and she's really cruel to everybody, and she never has any ideas.
No.
And everything just fails. That she tries. Yeah.
And yet still, I decided to work with this woman.
But I mean, that
How does she do that?
But that really is. I mean, the run that she's had and what she's done, and I don't know where even that kind of energy comes from.
Who just described it? Who was I just watching? Who described her? Norm Macdonald, who said it's just volcanic. Volcanic. Yeah.
Yeah, volcanic.
That's
works.
the right adjective there. Where I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have that. But yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm always asking her what, because I can never. She's so quiet that I can't hear her. Like,
really?
She's like a quiet volcano. What is that? If a volcano is just, I don't know. If you're simmering, but she's not simmering because she is explosive.
Sinkhole. That's the exact opposite. That's the exact opposite of any volcano. But a sinkhole is quiet. You're right about that.
We got the quiet part down. Yeah.
But that show is so joke heavy too. I mean,
know.
Just you know what I mean? Like just happening so fast.
It's so 30 Rock in that way, and the jokes and there's no improvising on that show, nor should there be. I feel like these jokes are so closely honed, and they're so precise and sharp, and I don't get some of them, and I'm saying that, who really doesn't get them, and she would say this, Carol Kane, she's like, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah. By the way, how much do you love her, and the fact that you work with her?
Is that unbelievable?
Yes.
I mean, it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I don't know. I was watching Annie Hall like not too long ago. I'm like, yes, of course, she's just right there. She's crazy. She's so brilliant. I can't believe I get to work with her. And
And
That's the
really,
investments.
I mean, her, like, just go back through the work that she's done.
Have you seen Hester Street?
Yes, it's just crazy.
It's just so she's just like a American treasure, but also that sounds so, I don't know, that's not grand enough to describe her. There's no one like her.
And she's just like this. You go back through all of her work. She's stunningly beautiful, and yet she's going for the real comedic chops.
That's
you know?
exactly right.
Yeah, and that's impossible to do. That's impossible.
I would say it's impossible to do before I put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you're like, oh, you're the pretty girl.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. I think you almost have to work harder.
Yes,
like
of
in
course.
her case, where I don't mean that she has to work harder. I just mean that she could rely on her beautiful looks more.
Absolutely.
And she doesn't.
Yeah, and I never saw her do that. She always goes as quirky as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so, and Kimmy is over. Maybe we'll do a movie, but I'm not sure if that's happening or not. But I will so miss that. I loved any scene that you got to be in with her. Like it's great, and she is so heartfelt and so sincere, and I just there's a reason why she is who she is.
Yeah.
But you're right, and watching all of her work, you're just blown away.
No, she's literally legendary.
Yeah.
She's literally, if you think of how many just great comedians she's worked with over the years.
Oh, when she tells me a story and she's naming these people, she's like talking about Tom Waits and who she had dinner with the other night, but not in an obnoxious way. Just
she
like
knows
that's
him.
who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, I was at Tom Waits' house, and it makes you go,
You're
what?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like it's no big thing. Yeah.
And that's where your life has gotten now to a lot of, you know what I mean?
Not really, but yeah.
But you know how many people would just feel that you brought up Conan's name or Tina Fey's name? Like, there's a whole generation of people that your life already looks crazy to.
Well, I really have been unbelievably lucky with the people who I've gotten to work with, and these are all idols of mine who now that was. I don't want to say you have to be careful with idols. That makes people sound old. I just mean you can. My James is a 2-year-old and he's my idol. That's my son.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be old to be an idol.
He's a genius.
He's
though.
also a genius.
Yeah.
That's why he's my idol. But that's just extraordinary good luck. And that's what I have to say about that.
The fact that you've had this successful run, and there's talk about maybe a movie with that, but there's also this talk about an Office reboot.
I hope that I can say, I've been saying this to other people, I would love an Office reboot because, first of all, I don't know in what form it would take, and I doubt that everyone would be able to go back, or maybe some people don't want to go back, but I think that it would be... it'd be like a high school reunion, kind of. I think that would be.
And you
fun,
don't have to do it the same way. There's already been enough examples of you only do it, 6 of them,
a
or
Christmas show, or something.
Everyone is not together all the time.
Right. I think that could be. I mean, some reboots have been done very well, and some haven't been. What if I started naming the ones that were terrible?
Let's do that. Let's go.
Just get into it.
Let's go through the really embarrassing
Bad
ones. Yeah,
I'm ready. No, I'm not going to.
My idea, of course, is you play Ricky Gervais because that to me would be the essence of everything that we're trying to do right now. I'm looking for the out time because I know she has a hard out, and I want to keep her up with everything.
Now that sounds sorry. There's nothing more obnoxious than a person with a hard out.
Yes, but you're that big kind of a diva.
Yeah.
You've got your own beautiful water bottle
long
here.
Green, water bottle that as you know was like a souvenir. But I recommend that. Well, no,
it was a gift.
It was a gift to
from
me.
Who?
From the Late Show with Colbert, with Colin. No. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
It's for those of us who can't see it, which are most of you. It's a love. How would you describe it? It's like a mint. No, it's not a mint green.
But you were also telling me this keeps everything hot and everything cold, which is impossible. How could that work?
How could it do? Well, I don't. You can feel it. It's so thin. I feel like if I put hot soup in there, I would burn myself. Don't you think it feels like it's metal?
Yeah, don't let the baby near this.
No, I'm not.
Smart as the baby is.
I also peeing on couches, drinking my hot soup. But I do feel skeptical of anything that can keep a soup warm for 12 hours.
But when you came in drinking this, I was immediately jealous. I was like, oh, I don't have anything like this.
Because of the container?
Yes, yes, that container.
I would never purchase one of these for myself. I have to tell you. I know what I'm getting you for Christmas. Even if you're a lapsed Catholic, I'm still getting. I didn't say you were. I didn't say you were.
It came across like I was going to do purgatory, though.
As I said it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're definitely going there.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. You're
I think
fine.
I can handle purgatory.
It's neither here
anything
nor
worse.
there.
Yeah. Anything worse than that. That's when it gets. By the way, there's not another Catholic in here. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
There's not. Oh, one.
There's one.
There you go. All right.
Oh, they're coming out.
Couple people going to heaven.
Wow.
Couple people
It
going
turns
to
out
heaven.
be a room full of closeted Catholics.
You
Yes,
are not a
everyone.
Catholic, sir. You are not. Yeah.
I do think when I go to church, I am surprised that there are. I'm like, oh, you're. But this is what can I say?
Yeah.
I'm the one with a heart out. But look at me going on and on. No, but when I go to church and during Peace Be With You, I don't know who still goes. I am always shocked by the people who don't like turn around and say hi. I'm like, guys, if there's any place to act like you're a good person, at least have it be church. I'm so regularly dissed by people. I turn around to this is the part of mass where you shake hands with people. And people pretend like they don't see you.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I really don't. I'm germ problems.
Yeah. I don't. That puts me in a bad mood.
Yeah. That's what has changed
Church
so much.
jokes.
I can't believe, like, even with communion, people are like, I'd rather just take it myself because of germs. And I'm like, well, this is the body of Christ, damn it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Risk it. Mm-hmm. Was I wrong to say damn it? Is that why you reacted? Okay. Smart move. I'm going to be on that now. You should not say this is the body of Christ, damn it.
They're just so close together, Christ. and damn it. They were so close. Yeah.
But
too close.
But that is like, I don't think there's generations that have no understanding how you couldn't make any mistakes when I was a kid. Now the priest go, all right, everyone stand up. None of that happened when I was young. You had to know that mass.
Oh, you were not cued?
No. We had to come in knowing it.
Sorry, did you go to Catholic school?
Yeah, well, I was in a totally Catholic neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it was like literally the type of thing where you would see a priest walking around in real life, and the nuns would be around like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like they would keep an eye on everybody.
So
Get out of the candy store.
But see, the fact that you're still a cat, you still consider yourself a Catholic, it sounds like you don't have any bitterness towards it.
No. There's plenty of things to be bitter about, but I do miss the fact that a community was pulled together.
Right.
You know what I mean? For, good or bad. You know what I mean? Even bad. Let's all suffer together. I think that was nice.
Right. I didn't go to Catholic school. I went to Sunday school. That's once a week. That doesn't hold a candle. They're apples and oranges. But I think there's something nice in that community feeling to it.
Yeah, it's all gone.
Yeah.
It's all gone for everybody. We're just all out there on our own, folks.
Well,
Nothing
we kind
to
of
do.
are.
Yeah.
It's not to... that's a different conversation, but we are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
also, did you just read the 2040 news?
Oh, about the
Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are. Sorry, but there won't be one.
Luckily, you have a genius son who is going to
solve it.
Yeah.
He's gonna solve it. Don't worry.
Here's what I'm thinking.
It was too loud in the microphone. Sorry.
No, it was perfect. But if we could cover the world with the same stuff this bottle's made out of, I think it'll be perfect.
We just want to hold it at its current temperature.
Yes.
You have something there.
Ellie Kemper, thank you so much for coming in here.
Thank you for having me. This has been such a delightful conversation for me anyway, so thank you.
Pick up this book, My Squirrel Days. It's actually very funny, and I'm sorry I didn't get the chance to talk to you about your husband since he's a writer, but did he help you with this?
He didn't. I showed him pages, and I trust his sense of humor, so if he thought something was funny, then I thought it was okay, but I showed it to him.
It's really, really funny because there's plenty of times I'm going, now is this true or is it all?
There's definitely some details that have been heightened. I want to be clear about that. But
it's very David Sedaris in different places.
That.
Yeah, I'm very serious.
I'm gonna die well before 2040 because that right now because that's a huge compliment.
Well, I have so many more questions, but you're a big star and you have a heart out.
Just stop saying the word heart out.
Ellie Kemper, everybody.
She's
wonderful. Thank you so much. That was really, really fun.
I could have talked for 2 more hours. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.